Okay. It is inwardly significant because every action is for the benefit of the world. Even when perfect masters urinate or defecate, they are doing universal work. Mm-hmm. But it is specifically in this gross world and is not spiritual work on the inner planes. Oh, like Debbie said, it was being out of the world. I mean, it was like for the world. Like, wow.
And it's like Baba took a lot of his worldly.
You get that?
When he was in
I heard what you said, but I'm not so sure I agree with that.
No, I'm not saying. I mean, that was just a joke. I mean, don't take that literally what I said about being in the world. But I'm just saying, the footnote here basically said that it is inwardly significant because every action is for the benefit of the world. Right. Even when perfect masters urinate or defecate, they are doing universal work. Universal work, it isn't that. But it is specifically in this gross world the work is being done. And it is not spiritual work on the inner planes.
You know,
so
we so easily
gross world work.
We so easily accept these. This is just like, and so many people that they hear that they go.
Just I was thinking about that. How do people, American people, me is okay because I grew up with that Muslim stuff. How easily accept it, I love it.
It's very unusual, isn't it?
Very intuitive. Very just like I was thinking about that.
Were you Catholic? We're sisters.
The American different thing, but how you accept it that beautifully like that, is Baba's grace.
Yes. Because I know a lot of people would listen to that and go, they do it to me already, about other things, but that
Exactly.
I'm going to talk for them.
That's right. He would go to defecate every day at a fixed time, usually late morning in a nearby field, followed by a parade of devotees. Some playing musical instruments.
Here we go! Come on, Brad.
It's the Lendi ceremony.
We're going to follow you now. You ready?
I'll tell you, I'd be a good candidate because
that'd be so
I
funny.
enjoy that part of my
game. You got to do that sometimes, too. One of these days, with around a bunch of people, you got to say, Kennedy, come on, let's go to the can, all right? And I'll call Mark, right? Mark, come on, friends, go to the can.
It's a Lendi ceremony.
I love it.
Yet this Lendi ceremony held a spiritual mystery. Sai Baba once explained, while I pass my stool, I direct my abdals, spiritual agents on the inner planes, about their duties to the world. I call upon them through the sound of the music during the parade.
Wow. That's where I got the name Duty.
Because? Say that again.
Because?
While I pass my stool, I direct my abdals, the spiritual agents on the inner planes, about their duties to the world. I call upon them through the sound of the music during the parade.
Isn't that unbelievable?
And then Bauji writes in his poetry, once in a glorious state he declared, I am the attributeless one, the absolute. The universe is my abode. Brahma is my father, and Maya is my mother. By their interlocking, I got this body. Those who think I reside at Shirdi do not know the real Sai, for I am formless and everywhere. At another time, Sai Baba declared his divinity. I am God. I am Mahalakshmi. I am Vitoba, Ganesha, Dattatreya. I am Narayan. And there's a footnote here that says, Lakshmi, Narayan, etc. are different deities of the Hindu pantheon of gods and goddesses, angels. There are 300 million.
300 million?
300 million different Hindu deities that people can refer to.
Wow.
In this instance, Sai Baba was referring to all the divine attributes of his personality or godhood. For instance, Ganesh represents the universal mind. I mean, there are major ones like Ganesh, Narayan, Lakshmi, but then there are others. But why do you go to the Ganges River in Benares? Hold your palm at my feet. Here flows the Ganges.
Oh.
Sai Baba begged all of his years at Shirdi.
No, that's not what he meant.
Look at Sai Baba in his begging attire.
Yeah, is he beautiful?
I mean, look at him. Sai Baba.
You would know he was God. I mean, you would know.
It says Sai Baba begged all his years at
Shiny.
Shirdi usually asking for bread, tobacco, and lamp oil. Even when very old, he would wander the streets of the village to find the 5 houses that he would beseech alms from for that day. In other words,
but one of the houses would be his, you know.
The what?
One of the houses would be his. Right?
It said
he was head of the 5, and he was one of the 5. So one of the
right.
I see. Exactly. One house represented
him
and his work. Wow. I tell you, so he was actually working every day.
Yeah.
And then even when he was an older man, because he knew he had to, that was his duty.
Yeah.
Sai Baba was a Gusi type of spiritual personality, or Gauss. G-H-O-U-S-E.
Oh, the Gauss, the one that could separate their body parts?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing about him that's unbelievable.
This Gauss type of master is very rare. Once a man went to the mosque where Sai Baba slept and found the physical limbs of the master's body lying separated on the floor. Oh, I'm scared.
I would too.
God. And
wild.
In one corner was the master's hands and arms. In another corner, his legs and feet. And in another corner, his head.
Oh
my God! I would.
Where's his body? Yeah, where's his torso? Because legs and feet in one, arms and...
Every limb was separated from the torso. It doesn't say where the torso.
So the torso probably stayed where it was.
Just right there. Torso probably was in a... Yeah, the torso probably was in the bed.
Well, I'm sure there wasn't even a bed. I'm sure
it was the floor.
Wow. The poor man was aghast. Terrified. He thought of notifying the village police that the Fakir had been murdered. Hacked to pieces.
I would think that. You would think
But he feared that the police might try to implicate him in the crime, and so he went home out of his wits as to what to do.
And then next thing he sees
The next morning, the disturbed man anxiously went to the mosque. To his shocking surprise, he found Sai Baba alive, giving a discourse to some of his devotees as he wondered if he had seen the previous evening had been nothing but a nightmarish dream.
It blows the guy's mind.
This guy was, I would have.
To see a guy like that, and the next day, that was just
shocking.
The point of it is, though, you see, when you talk along spiritual lines and the Christian symmetry or whatever, and consider this, this blows your mind.
It does.
Because this
Not
is something.
Mine, but
it could be spiritual from the point of view, but this is like it's almost the word. Gauss almost reminds you of ghoulish.
Yeah,
a ghoulish.
Sure. Whew. That might be where it even came from. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Ghosts. Yeah.
Ghosts.
The man did not know about this rare characteristic of the Fakir. At times, for their inner work, perfect ones sometimes enter the Gauss state, and parts of their physical body separate. When that particular phase of work is finished, their body automatically joins together again when they return to the gross bodily consciousness. Oh my God. It's like
automatically.
Well, can you imagine special effects doing a scene where this...
Oh, yeah. Get it.
Well, they probably did it already. Well, they do it with Terminator.
Yeah, that's
Remember the Mercury Man?
Yeah.
He would go down the...
Oh, yeah, the
policeman.
Oh, right.
The policeman would go to the Mercury and
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Oh,
that's right. Cool background.
But anyway, this is page 76. There's a Gauss, pronounced ghoul. I guess you pronounce it ghoul, even though it's spelled G-H-O-U-S-E. Pronounced ghoul is a spiritual term. One who is a ghoul has the occult power to dismember his physical body and later rejoin his limbs. This ghoul characteristic is also predominant in some God-intoxicated persons, musts. It is a curious observation that Sai Baba had this ghoul characteristic since he was in charge of World War I. It could relate to all those human bodies that were shattered into pieces and their limbs scattered over the battlefields.
Wow. Gui, you know what is gui? With something wrong, like a gulo, you call it gulo, something like that.
No, this is different. Ghoul.
Different.
Ghoul. G-H-O-U-L. This is ghoul. Ghoul separate. Because during the First World War, they used such shrapnel and bombs that was very, very inhumane. Because, let's face it, technology wasn't that sound.
More barbaric.
More barbaric. It was just, and guys would just their heads would be just cut off with the bullets or arms or bombs.
Would just blow
Bombs
the
would just blow
limbs,
people into smithereens.
And the people were dying a lot faster because they couldn't preserve blood.
Exactly. They couldn't preserve blood, and they also had these charge of the light brigade like charges. They still had this stupid military strategy where you'd see the forces over there and you'd be called to come out of your hole with your gun like this in plain sight of your attackers, and you could be gunned down
or stabbed
and cut
that's what the sword on the little gun
was
for.
the bayonet.
There was no plasma in those days.
Those people
There was no plasma.
wasn't alive. So it was World War II. World War II.
Oh, this is good.
Wow.
This is good. There's another story.
That's very Vietnam.
There's another story of a man who witnessed Sai Baba dismembering himself. The Fakir always slept alone. Each night Sai entered the ghoul state. It is said that he slept on a bed about 6 feet off the ground, but there was no ladder. Once when Sai had gone to retire to his room, a man quietly crept to the window to see Sai levitate to his bed. But he was aghast to see a body without arms, without legs, and without a head. Instantly, the man was blinded. And his blindness served as a source of repentance for the rest of his life.
Because he saw something he wasn't supposed to see. I remember Bao saying that they were told not to, if they saw, Baba said if you go, you would have urge them go find musks. And he said if you see one disassembled, don't go away from it, leave it. Because it could kill you, could be killed. I remember Bao saying that. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, the must hunts.
Yeah. Must hunt. We must hunt.
Oh, and also, this is really something here now. And we were sort of having a levity and laughing here. Sai Baba was not a person of no humor. He would often joke with his devotees and even poke fun at their weaknesses. However, until he died, he retained the austere ascetic life of a fakir. He would call God poor, a fakir also. Since God is poor, I am poor, he would say. And there's a footnote.
But God doesn't have house, doesn't have nothing.
Right.
Only in our heart is his place. You know?
Yes, that's his palace.
Since when Sai Baba called himself a fakir and God the fakir is referred to his lack of worldly possessions as well as the state of God, that is the infinite unconsciousness. In this state, God is poor because God does not realize he is God. Also, in this state, God is helpless to bestow realization, which is the wealth of the perfect master. Wow.
Wow.
So, something. He wore the same caftan shirt until it was so torn and tattered that one of his disciples had to forcibly remove it from him and give him a new one to wear. Even after that, Sai often sat with a needle and thread, patiently repairing it. This was the same garment given to him in his youth by Gopal Rao, his master. Thank God he kept it for around 50 years.
Wow.
Later, when it was completely in shreds, he sewed the pieces together and made a turban kerchief, which he wore around his head.
Wow.
You always see him with.
Yes.
There is.
Yeah, there it is. You always see him. That was given from the. Oh my God, this is touching.
It is.
Oh my God.
Sai Baba blended his unique personality of Hindu and Mohammedan characteristics and had followers of both faiths. He never forbade anyone from eating meat and sometimes ordered Brahmin priests to give up vegetarianism and eat foods against their wish. On a rare occasion, he himself would cook meat and distribute it to those gathered. Although his eyes were always intense and lustrous, his nature was cordial. His personal habits were austere, but his ashram compound was always informal and lively. His personality was sweet-tempered and tolerant, although at times he was jajali, or fiery, and would become enraged at someone's failures. An aspect of Sai Baba Jalali side was portrayed by a pet he had, a tiger. For some years, the tiger lived with Sai Baba at Shirdi and would accompany him on his walks.
Wow.
The tiger was his pet, and as an ordinary man's would be a dog or a cat. When the tiger died, it was buried by Sai in his own tomb.
Wow.
When people came for Sai Baba's darshan, it was common to him to demand that they empty their purse or pockets of their money and give it to him as dakshina, a monetary gift to the master. But if anyone approached him with material desires, Sai Baba would say, Allah Malik Hai, meaning in this instance, God is the giver. Sai Baba kept a pile of small stones near his own large stone seat, and he would pick up a stone and throw it at whoever came for his darshan. Although miracles happened to so many people, those who were hit by the stones did receive his blessing and became Sai's real devotees.
Wow.
In 1886, Sai Baba suffered from a severe asthma attack and told his disciple Malasapati, "Protect my body for 3 days. If I return, it will be all right. If my body does not return to life, bury it and plant 2 flags over the grave."
Wow.
Sai then closed his eyes and entered a state of samadhi, appearing to be dead. His breathing and pulse stopped completely, and his body remained lifeless for 3 days and nights.
Wow.
Some of the master's devotees were grief-stricken and only understood that the
I
master
wonder if
had
that's
died.
symbolic of Jesus. You know, the 3 days before the resurrection.
Right.
You know, they went into Nirvikapa Samadhi.
They wanted to perform the last rites, but the faithful disciple Malasapati prevented them by cradling Sai Baba's body in his lap. Exactly as Sai had foretold, after 72 hours his eyes slowly reopened and he re-entered his body. But he did not speak of the work he had done while in that state, or while he entered the samadhi. And it gets a footnote here. Wow. Samadhi is a state of spiritual entrancement, or temporary stopping of the mental and physical vital forces. A close disciple who was always seated in Sai Baba's court was named Bara Baba, which means Big Baba. He was a huge fat man. Sai Baba would give Bara 100 rupees a day for his food, and the man would eat and eat. And then eat and eat again.
You buy a lot with 100 rupees.
Bada
Even
Baba.
today.
Bada Baba.
You like that, Bada Baba?
Yeah.
Bada Bada. Hey, that's what they say. When they serve, I noticed at the train stations, Bada Bada, Bada Bada, eat,
Yeah,
eat.
yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, Bada Bada, eat, eat. Eat, Bada Bada.
Oh, that's funny.
Sai Baba would eat only the breads and raw onion that he begged for, while Bada Baba would eat the finest food available. Why was Sai Baba so particular that his disciple be giving a huge sum of money for an enormous amount of food while he himself lived on what he begged? This huge man was a storehouse for the sanskaras of all those who had handed over their money to Sai Baba during darshan. And the sanskaras of those people were completely wiped out when Bada Baba attained mukti, liberation, at his death. So this guy was like a vacuum cleaner.
The cosmic vacuum.
Oh my God. And so when he died, everyone, sanskaras were wiped out.
Yeah.
Wow.
78. Mukti is the realization of God at the moment of death, liberation from the rounds of births and deaths. While the fat man Bara Baba was alive, he was a storehouse of other sanskars that Sai Baba collected and deposited in him that outwardly appeared as an exchange of money. In this sense, when Sai Baba said, "Give me your money," he was asking people to empty themselves of their sanskars before him.
Oh, wow. That's why you get your perfume down. That was beautiful.
Oh, I know, and I knew it. Giving
Maybe
Bob's brother.
Jal was asking for that because he always asked me, "Bring me cameras, bring me film, bring me cognac,
Watch.
bring me whatever."
Everything.
Like Minu always says, bring cognac and bangles.
Yeah.
So you do, and you give it. You think nothing of it.
Well, here, Mark, you want to pick it this once a thief
We
was
might
caught.
have to go.
Maybe tomorrow.
Oh, you had
Yeah, we'd love to keep going, but
what time?
because it's a word.
9:30.
What is after Sai Baba?
Oh, geez, there's only 3 pages
Oh,
left.
is there?
Okay.
Can we
Okay.
finish this
Yeah,
chapter?
we can finish it.
Yeah, let's finish the chapter.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
tomorrow read.
Oh,
Tomorrow you want to read?
This
Or
is
you don't
the-
want to read? I'll read.
What's a
Don't keep me
thief?
awake.
What's a thief? It's
And
that
I don't mean awake. I'm
it's
just
that dialogue there. What's a thief?
stimulated.
What's a thief?
Once a thief was caught by the police with a bag full of jewels. The thief told the police that he had gotten the gems from Sai Baba. An inspector came to Shirdi to investigate the matter and interrogated the Fakir at length. The policeman filled out his report as he questioned the master. "What is your name?" he inquired. "They call me Sai Baba." "What was your father's name?" "Also Sai Baba." "What was your guru's name?"
Also.
"Fakusha." "What is your creed or religion?" "Kabir." "What is your caste?" "Parvadagar." "How old are you?" "Hundreds of thousands of years." "Will you swear in court that what you are saying is the truth?" "I am the truth." "Do you know the accused?" "Yes, I know him. I know everyone." "The accused says he is your devotee and has stayed with you. Is that so?" "Yes, all are with me. All are mine." "Did you give the accused some jewels as alleged by him?" "Yes, I gave them to him." "Who gives what and to whom?" "Yes, I gave them to him." "Who gives what and to whom?" "If you gave the accused the jewels, how did you get them?" "Everything is mine. Everything has been given to me." The policeman was overwhelmed. Subsequently, the thief was cleared of the charges and the case was dropped.
Wow.
Sai Baba would keep
Such
a Duni
compassion.
fire burning in the Mother of Mercy Mosque each night. He would also keep a small oil lamp burning in the mosque and would obtain oil by begging from different shopkeepers in Shirdi. On one particular day, however, not one shopkeeper would give him any kerosene. Sai returned to the mosque and, filling the lamp with water, lit it. The lamp burned without fuel, and when early the next morning the villagers came to know of this miracle, their faith in him was kindled, and Sai Baba became the true center of attention in Shirdi. A perfect master sees all who are connected with him. One day in 1910, Sai Baba was sitting near the Duni when suddenly, instead of putting wood on the fire, the master pushed his arm into the flames. A devotee rushed toward him and pulled his arm out, but it was seriously burned. When asked why he had done this, Sai explained, "One of my followers is a potter not far from here. His wife was just then working at the kiln with her daughter on her lap. Hearing her husband call her, she got up, and the child accidentally slipped into the furnace. At that moment, I thrust my arm into this fire. I do not mind these burns. The child was saved. Had I not done this, the little girl would have died."
Wow.
Oh my.
Wow.
Yeah. After some years in Shirdi, Sai Baba had a temple built near the mosque in memory of his guru, Gopal Rao. By erecting this new temple in honor of a Hindu saint, next to the old Mohammedan mosque, it becomes construed that it was a part of Sai Baba's spiritual work to unite the Hindus and the Muslims spiritually. In fact, Sai Baba used to refer to his mosque, the Mother of Mercy, as a Brahmin mosque. Sometimes in the mosque, Sai Baba would have the Quran read to him by the Mohammedan followers, and sometimes in his guru's temple he would the arti and puja performed, and have the Gita and Ramayana read by the Hindu followers. Sai Baba was an unusual perfect master, for he was a unique blend of Hindu and Muslim spiritual characteristics, and his work with both religions signified that there's no real difference between the two, for the one worshipped is the same. No one can determine whether Sai Baba was born a Hindu or a Muslim, but it is certain that his spiritual upbringing was directly connected to both, because he had both Hindu and Muslim masters. Sai was unique. He dressed like a Muslim, but bore the caste marks on his forehead of a Hindu. He would celebrate the holy days and festivals of both religions with equal fervor. He quoted the Quran to the delight of the Mohammedans, but was equally well versed in the Hindu Shastras or scriptures. To someone like Sai Baba, his own human identity and religious differences were nothing into nothing. Once when someone asked him where he was born, he replied, "I have no residence." Over the years, thousands flocked to Sai Baba, many with material gain on their minds. Sai Baba was once remarked about those who sought his blessing, "It is I who seek them out and bring them to me. They do not come by their own volition." So no guilt, you know what I mean?
That's
Go
right.
and do what you need to do. It's like, ask for what you want, Even though some may be hundreds of miles away, I draw them to me like sparrows with strings tied to their feet. Oh. He would often repeat to his devotees, I give you what you want so that you will begin to want what I want to give you. My master told me to give bounteously to all who beseech me, but none of you beseech me with wisdom. My treasury is open, but none of you bring a cart to haul away the real treasure. Dig deep and take what is rightfully yours, but none of you want to take the trouble. I tell you, all who come to me, this opportunity will not return. I am the one, I am God. He controlled World War I. When Sai Baba would come from the mosque to the temple of Gopal Rao, his arti would be sung between these two buildings. At that time, when he was walking between the mosque and temple, a strange light would be seen on his face. It was also noticed that he would make strange signs in the air with his fingers. This behavior continued daily for 4 years, from the start of World War I to its conclusion. During the war years, Sai Baba would often say, I am formless and I am everywhere. I am not this body you call me Sai. Sai. I am the Supreme Soul, the entire creation. I am everything and I am in everyone. I am in saints, criminals, animals, and everything else. Nothing happens without my wish. My light is of God. My religion is Kabiri, perfect mastery. And my wealth lies in the blessings I alone can give. One day, while the war was going on, Sai Baba was returning from the Lendi procession when, amidst sweet music, his eyes fell upon a particular young man as they had never fallen on anyone else. Parvardagar, the single word with the force of oceanic sound he uttered as the youth fell at the old Fakir's feet. When it has the little cross there, it means you have to go somewhere?
The page in the back.
Yeah, you say this about him. I mean, people still today go to Sai Baba for that one. You know what I mean? For marriage or children.
Right.
Or
we saw it.
Right.
But
I mean, thousands are there.
Right, but you know what I like is what he said.
Yes, I know.
I pick them to come to me.
Yeah, pick them to come.
But he says no one comes to ask me for what I really have, the real treasure.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but he said he brings them just so that they will finally want what he wants.
Right. In other words,
So that's why we went there. We were supposed to go to him.
in other words, he brings you there, and
Jackie and I went.
he gets you to.
No.
No.
Yeah, he brings you. He's
I
like
want Billy
sparrows being drawn by their feet on the ground. You know what I mean?
No, but I mean, he was talking about what he really has to give.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is
sure.
going
For what they think, another
one rare soul would be there to do that. You know, to use something.
Everybody wants like, family, children, good job, wife, this, that, husband,
Yes.
like this.
What is it?
Okay, it says Parvardagar is a Sufi term for the preserver of creation. It is the same one who is known as Vishnu in the mysticism of Vedanta. He who pervades is the almighty preserver.
Called Baba Parvardagar.
Parvardagar, yeah. Who is Sai Baba addressing? The eyes that caught hold of Sai Baba's belonged to that Zoroastrian youth who had been kissed by Babajan, enthralled by Narayan Maharaj, and garlanded by Tajuddin Baba. The eyes of the youth and the eyes of the old Fakir steadily gazed at each other, and the great word again came out of the old Fakir's mouth, Parvardagar. Then for the third time the holy word sounded from the depths of the old master's godhood as he proclaimed Parvardagar, and prostrated himself before the young man. The crowd of devotees was astonished to witness this extraordinarily significant event. Deep is its meaning, though it took place on a dusty dirt road in a poor village of Maharashtra, India, in December 1915. As the crowd surrounded Sai Baba, the youth was pushed aside. Sai Baba returned to his seat while the youth continued wandering along the road.
My God.
Our age cried out to the crowd, but no one heard. Don't you recognize who it is that Sai bowed to? You too will bow to him and surrender. Don't leave him behind. He is the Ancient One.
Wow.
And I think that's Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, no, wait. Wait, is this the rest of it here? Yeah, one more
Oh,
page?
yeah.
One more page,
One
okay.
like an epilogue.
As the war was ending on September 28, 1918, Sai Baba, then 80, was stricken with fever which lasted for 2 days. 80.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, yeah. After the old Fakir would not eat, he seemed aware of his impending death. Sai Baba had an old brick which he had used as his pillow for years.
Break, crack, I died at that night.
Oh, yeah.
One day, the boy who cleaned the mosque dropped the brick.
Yeah, see?
See? And it broke in two.
He said, same night I died.
When Sai Baba entered the mosque, upon seeing the broken brick, he exclaimed, "It is not the brick, but my faith, it has been broken."
Right.
Wow.
Same night he died.
Wow.
The brick was my lifelong companion
Right.
and assisted me in my work.
Oh.
Wow.
Well,
It
this
was
boy
as
can feel
dear
that.
to me.
Oh, God, I forgot. The boy that dropped it.
Oh, I know. It was as dear
It
to
should
me
be.
as
Has to be. Has to
Yeah,
be.
it had to be.
yeah. It was as dear to me as my life.
Oh.
Now that it is broken, the earthen pot of my life will also soon break. After 17 days with no food, Sai Baba collapsed at 2:30 in the morning and cried, "Ah, Diva, oh God." Then his head leaned on the shoulder of a close disciple, and he breathed his last. It was October 15th, 1918, during the important Hindu holy day of Dasara. Even in the end, there was a bitter dispute between his devotees. The Hindus wanted his body to be cremated, while the Mohammedans wanted it to be buried.
Yeah.
After 3 days of heated argument, the body was buried in a temple that he himself had recently instructed to be erected for Lord Krishna.
They buried it.
As the body of Sai Baba was lowered into the grave, seated vertically,
Oh.
it looked as fresh as when it was alive.
Oh.
Wow.
The poor fakir's body had contained the uncontainable God. Sai Baba once said, "I shall be active and vigorous even for my tomb. Even after my Mahasamadhi, I shall be with you the moment you think of me."
Okay. It was no.
Yeah. To this day, his words are true, as Sai Baba's shrine at Shirdi has become the most popular place of pilgrimage of any contemporary spiritual master in India thus far. O nameless one, O you who are called Sai, how can we repay you for what you have done for us? You brought formless God into form and gave him power. And there's one footnote here. Yeah. Okay. A perfect master consciously wills his death when his universal work is completed. Mahasamadhi means the dropping of a Sadguru's physical form, and it is a conscious departing from world or spheres of matter, energy, and mind.
Wow.
Wow.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Oh, what a great meeting.
Yeah!
Thank you.
Sai Baba.
I set those things out and I didn't even stamp them. I don't think, well.
Sai Baba.
Jai
It's
Baba.
June 5th, 1996. It's Wednesday night. The Lord Mayor meeting in Los Angeles at the center. And Lord Mayor is by Baal Kulturi. It dates 1894 to 1922. It's the biography of the Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba, Volume 1. We're now on page 119, and this is titled Sheriar, the Dervish, the ascetic. There was no one else like him on earth. He was unique. He did not know fear.
I love it.
He was matchless. He was a monarch
He
in a
was.
dervish robe. Sheriar Mundigar Irani.
Wow.
In Persia,
They're beautiful pictures.
Mm-hmm.
during the 19th century, the plight of Zoroastrians was terrible. The atmosphere of the Holy Land of the Magians,
Like Meja, what is that?
let's see, let's look that up.
Yeah.
Probably pronounced
I love being read to.
Magians.
You love what?
Being read to.
Like the
Isn't
Magi.
it wonderful?
So
You know
much
what's the
reminds-
best? To have something holy read to you before you drop to sleep.
That's absolutely the truth. I always do, try to.
Magians were the holy men who succeeded Zarathustra. The Persian term is derived from the word magus, sailor of the ocean, of life. Refer to the book, The Nothing in the
See,
Everything.
that's like the Magi.
Like the Magi.
Yeah.
The atmosphere of the Holy Land of the Magians had changed drastically since the prophet Zarathustra had sanctified Persia 7,000 years before. The followers of Zarathustra were considered kafirs, the unbelievers, by the Mohammedans, and were systematically mistreated and oppressed. The Star Islam was held high, and those who did not embrace the Mohammedan religion were mercilessly persecuted. Their lives were in constant danger, and except for Ahura Mazda, their god, no one else was the Zoroastrians' protector. Over the centuries, the majority of Zoroastrians had converted to Islam, and most of those who refused had fled to India. Those who did not migrate from Persia had to bow before the Muslims and their laws, tolerating their cruelty and harassments. There was no one to blame for this situation. The wheel of time spins circumstances according to divine law. From the humanistic point of view, such a condition could well be concluded as unnatural, man persecuting man in the name of religion. But without God's will, not even a leaf falls. So the spread of Islam and the Mohammedans' outrages perpetrated against the Zoroastrian community in Persia in the 1800s brought this natural state of unnaturalness.
This natural state of
Unnaturalness.
Bao loves that word.
I love it too.
I do.
In those days, the eldest of a party of Zoroastrians had to dismount from his horse to signify homage to Islam if he passed before even a Muslim child.
Wow.
Torture and kidnapping of Zoroastrian children was also not infrequent.
no.
Jeez.
Ooh, you're savage.
They are.
It is said that Muslims would trick a Zoroastrian boy to enter their house. Behind locked doors and shaded windows, they would force the boy to stand in a circle. Every Muslim present had a needle concealed behind his back, and one by one they would viciously stick the needle into him. The boy would eventually collapse and die.
Oh my God.
The body would then be flung into the streets of the Zoroastrian community.
Oh God, in the name of God, they do these things. Isn't it unbelievable? It's been going on forever. That's horrible.
What an ugly thing.
Now, sticking needles in a body could kill a child?
Well, you figure if there was about
no.
50 people,
Not just like acupuncture.
I mean, these are probably sewing needles, which are different, you know.
Oh, Baba.
It
And
makes
you know,
me feel sick.
What probably it is he's just so shocked by getting these
Yeah.
needles that he just
Oh, yeah.
dies of
And then
shock.
the blood,
You can
too.
die of
Yeah,
shock.
absolutely.
Also
A lot of
bleeding,
people
I'm
die
sure,
of shock.
bleeding.
Oh, of course, the organ.
Terrible.
I don't remember reading.
I don't either. I don't remember
I
this
probably
part.
didn't want to remember it.
Exactly.
Yeah, really.
Zoroastrian women also faced every type of assault and humiliation, and there were reports of rape and murder.
Jeez.
The lives of all Zoroastrians were in constant peril in Persia. However much abused or vilified, they had to bear it or face certain death.
Fred, it was so hard. You said constant pearl, and I thought, I just pictured this pearl, and I thought, wait a minute, what
It's
is
a
it?
different pearl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. P-E-R-I-L.
Yeah.
The Muslims violently restrained the Zoroastrians from practicing their religion, the worship of fire, symbolic of the universal struggle between the forces of light and of darkness, fanatically believing that it was their duty to Islam to curtail the spread of this blasphemous faith.
I want to tell you, when I was in India last, Mirwan Mehta, he has two brothers, and his mother passed away at 52 years of age of a massive heart attack. Erich came to the hospital and spent her last 2 hours talking to her.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Anyway, they buried her in there's a cemetery plot on the way to Maribah.
Oh, you mean Godrich passed away?
No. Godrich was
Merwan Mehta's wife.
Rukhsana's Rookie's father, yeah. No, this was Merwan's mother. Her name was Meru.
Okay.
And she was, I loved her. She would get on some people's nerves, like Win Coates that took these wonderful pictures of the mandali and that. He was almost like family, and he felt she was nagging him, but she had a really pure touch. And she could even like stroke your chest or any part, and you were just
wow.
like a child.
Wow.
Really. And then she's very emotional, but she was just so wonderfully physical, is all I could say, but with a pure touch. And so Merwan's the oldest, and one day, Erich's uncle Nashawan said, Norina lives down the road. That's what he said. And I said, really? I said, he said, yes. Have you met Nashawan? You met him, didn't you?
Sure.
He's 100 years old.
Oh, really?
This month.
I don't know if I have that.
Oh, God, you better make your way to see him.
I maybe met him.
Did I meet him?
Oh, my God.
Maybe I met him
you
once.
guys, he's so beautiful. He knew Baba when Baba was
Did he
talking.
ever come to the Samadhi, or?
Yes, sometimes.
I maybe met him.
Did you ever go to Meher Kalani?
I never went there.
Oh,
I may have went.
he was in charge of
I may
that.
have went one time.
Akbar Press?
I never stayed there. I went there with somebody who was staying there.
Yeah, Akbar Press. He pointed out the place where Baba Jan had herself driven up to see Baba for the last time, and he told me where Baba stood.
Wow.
And that they looked at each other, he says, for some time. And then Baba Jan had herself driven.
Goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I wanted to tell you is I got invited to their place. It was called Shireen's Cottage. So it was this Meru, Meta, and then the three boys. And oh my God, what intoxication. I mean, not only was a meal phenomenal, and I eat some more and all this, but they had treasures beyond, First of all, she showed me the postcard that Baba sent saying who she was.
Oh, wow.
He says, this soul is the same as that of Narina.
So she was Narina Machabelli?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The one you met, Merwan.
No, the man. Merwan
The
made
man
that.
was
Sahabas
Narina.
last year.
I wasn't at Sahabas
Oh,
last
you
year.
weren't?
Well, he was supposedly through people and said he was Narina Machabelli, which was one of Baba's first.
Not through people.
Wow.
True.
Baba. I saw it in writing.
Baba said.
Of course, it was a postcard from Baba.
Well, if it's from Baba, because he never told us that.
No, because he's not saying.
He wants to have doubt.
Oh.
If people want to doubt, they
Well,
he wants to.
People asked him directly, almost saying, "Who are you? Are you?" And he sort of said, "I don't want to talk about it."
Well, no,
Yeah.
not exactly. I
what
thought
do
it was very beautiful. See, I never confronted him with it because people said, oh, he doesn't like to hear it. But I'm sorry, I didn't. You know what I mean? But I met him when he was 17. After Nashawan clued me in who he was, and I loved the 40 messages. So, I can say, it's sort of like if you wrote a book, Fred, I loved the book and I was inspired by it. I mean, I couldn't help but like you.
Yeah.
So I got acquainted with him, and he comes, and he's kind of shy. He's 17, and he's in
How long ago was this?
trench coat. It was in 76.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's 37.
Yeah, he's about,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's born in April, late April. And all I could say is he was a very balanced teenager. You know that teenage energy is like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
And he was very sweet, and he was always very thoughtful person. And even at the Sahavas, he was so natural. He was a natural.
Sorry, I missed meeting him.
Well, you know what? I called him up a few days ago, and I says, because I thought he was going to go. He had told me he was going to Nashwan's. Baba said Nashwan would live 100 years. So I hope I get to see him off. But so on the 13th of this month, he's turning 100. And then, but Marwan says, well, our plans were changed. We can't go. But, and I says, well, why don't you consider coming to the Sahaba? And he says, well, yeah, we've thought about it. So
cool.
He may show
Where does he live?
wow.
Where does he live?
In Rolla, Missouri.
Rolla, Missouri.
Rolla, Missouri.
He's a engineering
engineer. He's a mechanical
Isn't
engineer.
it wild? I mean, you go from being one of Bob's Mandali
to the middle of America.
to the middle of America in Missouri of all places.
But I tell you, he has a great sense of humor. And of course, being of that family. I mean, what a blessing to be of Erich's family. I mean, it's a holy family.
Wow.
And he's very. Oh yeah.
Wow.
They sent me a birthday present.
So you have a connection.
I don't know. I have a connection. Yeah. But I got him at the Saras when he was in school, and he said, "But why?" And I couldn't tell him because I liked your book. I liked 40 Messages. So I said, well, why not? So he accepted it. But they told me, come and visit to Rolla. And if I ever get a chance, I'm going to go. They're so sweet. They are so sweet. But if I'll have to show you the sweet gift. And it's so sweet. They're like, they have the feeling of being children. So beautiful. But I didn't end this thing, though. I'm getting fired up, that family. So I go to this graveyard site. They bust us over. And Nashuan's there. Nashuan didn't expect. This was his caretaker.
Right.
Nehru, and she bumps off, and he's going, oh.
Yeah.
He's living in Akbar Press that Baba used to come by and take food out of the till when he was talking.
Wow.
And that place, and he says, Baba sat there. It'd be this old crumbling table with things pulling your clothes, And anyway, there's at the graveyard site, and the three brothers are there. They're very loving to each other. They're just so beautiful. I mean, I wish the three of them, could have come. One's into acting, the youngest one, and the other one's into business, and Marwan is a mechanical engineer. And now Elizabeth Patterson, who loved Norina, who's her favorite person, she gave him money to get through school. She helped him.
Wow.
And he carved her a boat. Something he did, and someone told me when he handed it to her, she just tears rolling. She didn't, you didn't see much emotion usually when she was just. And of course, the women Mandali felt they knew him somehow, and when he was a child, and then Baba told them, but also the postcard. But they had stuff from the new life in that Shreen cottage. I mean, I was so intoxicated, I can't tell you. I mean, and my worst trip to India, I mean, worst meaning it was a grace, right? But it felt like pure shit. Every day was worse, till I could barely make it out to Marazad. So I finally went to Mani, and I went, Mani, I have to talk to you. And she says, then I don't have all the time in the world. She says, we'll make a time. I says, but I'm leaving tonight. She says, I don't have all the time in the world. What do you think I'd crushed. Anyway, she took me aside and says, the beauty of being over there with these pure souls, because I says, I feel so alien. I feel so separate. She says, we don't feel that from you. So it's like that reflection back, it's like, get a love, get a life.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Who gives you that reflection? They have to be pure.
That's right.
Anyway, that horrible trip, Mirwan and his brother, his younger brother, there are two younger ones, but the middle one, and Wyncoats walked me to the bus. And I remember it was such a, I don't know, it was just so sweet. Because, usually young boys that age,
Yeah.
But it was a sweet thing, because I was like barely pulling my bones.
Okay.
Sorry, I got carried.
It's okay. However abused they were, the Zoroastrians did not dare utter a word in retort to the Muslims, and they would not defend or justify themselves before their persecutors. But they were as human as their enemies, and had a deep sense of right and wrong. Although they would often become angry, they would not express it to the Muslims, so in order to vent their anger, they resorted to a clever outlet. Opposite their houses, all Zoroastrians had a pillar sunk in the ground, and they would pretend that the post was their enemy, kicking or hitting it, then spitting on it. The whipping post.
The whipping post, there you go.
This daily outburst would relieve their frustration, and they were then better able to tolerate the persecution they constantly faced.
Well, you know what? Vesta, she was the first handmaiden in there. They'd throw rocks at her, and she'd wear long sleeves because they'd hit her. The Muslim.
Wow.
And she didn't want the Mandali to tell her not to come, so she'd wear long sleeves.
Jeez, amazing.
Hi,
What's the footnote?
We're doing Sheriar's Mundiga Irani. The footnote is, in modern times, these Muslim outrages against the Zoroastrians would be considered barbaric and intolerable, but similar persecution is still perpetrated in different parts of the world. During the middle of the 19th century, while the Zoroastrians were persecuted, a similar situation existed in India among the Harijans, or untouchables, the lowest Hindu caste. The Harijans were miserably oppressed by the high caste Brahmins, and riots would result in villages even if the shadow of an untouchable fell on a high caste Hindu.
Wow.
Wow.
Even if a shadow?
Yeah, in other words, if a person's crossing
standing
your
there
path and you fall on a Hindu Brahmin, you'd be beat or stoned.
Jeez.
Well, I still see that in India, the caste division, because you see most of the sweepers are really dark skinned.
Yeah.
And they're not, whatever. I mean, it's improved a bit, but you could tell there's a little bit of snobbishness.
Yeah.
You see it.
But Krishna was very dark skinned.
Was he?
Yeah, he was like blue-black skin. It looked almost blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it's just like looking at our country the same way.
I know, it's so true.
Indians, Filipinos, Asians, or blacks always are, the hoity-toity.
Exactly.
Have their own thing.
I'm just going to plug in the water. Okay.
In such troubled times, Sheriar Mundiga Irani was born in the town of Khurramshahr, a Zoroastrian community, on March 21st, 1853.
On March what?
21st.
Oh, wow.
Somebody's birthday?
He's in Aries.
He was born 1853.
1853.
That's Liam Mullen's birthday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Sheriar's father, Mundigar, was a poor man like most Zoroastrians. For how could the Zoroastrians, who were considered kafirs, which are infidels, prosper in this land of religious strife? You know what's amazing about this is that the way Bao presented it, it was as though that's the way things were at that time. And if you were a soul born in a Zoroastrian family, you just have to deal with it.
That's right.
And do the best you can.
That's right.
But not be a person that turns into a violent person.
Yeah.
You just have to sort of, anyway, it really teaches you something. Mundigar's job, that is the father of Sheriar, was that of a caretaker of the local Tower of Silence, the place where the Zoroastrians brought their dead to be devoured by vultures. I don't know if you know about the Tower of Silence.
Yeah, that's where Baba used to always go and hang out.
Yeah.
And it says,
That's where Jal, didn't
Yeah.
Jal? They put his bones there to be picked.
Oh, really?
Jal was
it said Zoroastrians still allow their deceased to be devoured by vultures.
Wow.
This method of internment.
So do the Aborigines. I
Do
just
they?
finished reading this book. Where
Really?
Yeah.
The Aborigines do too?
Yeah, they used to bury them in the sand because they feel like everything should go back to the earth. But now they're allowing them to be above the sand and just let the vultures, like the animals, do what they will with them.
It says, this method of internment originates from the veneration Zoroastrians have for the elements. Fire is too highly revered by Zoroastrians to allow it to be used for burning the dead, as is the practice of the Hindus.
Say that part again?
It says, this method of interment originates from the veneration Zoroastrians have for the elements.
Okay.
Fire, an element, is too highly revered
Oh, wow.
by Zoroastrians to allow it to be used for burning the dead, as is the practice of Hindus.
Wow.
Because Hindus predate.
Right.
God, I swear to God, this book,
And then,
I never
doesn't
remember.
it
I
also-
know.
yeah. And then it says, water is also revered, and so is earth. So is the sacred soil. So the sacred soil should not be corrupted with cadavers.
Wow.
Hence, this singular mode of interment was devised. It is also claimed that Zarathustra taught that rich and poor meet on equal terms at death.
Wow.
So even rich Zoroastrians allow their deceased to be devoured by vultures.
Wow.
Wow.
I never knew that.
I didn't know that
But
either.
it's so strange that it's in here. I would have never thought it was in here, and I've read this.
I know, me
know.
too.
Well, it's just this book. You can reread it.
Oh,
You
I
can
think
a million
each
times.
time you'll get something.
It's like
else.
layers.
It is layered. It's
Exactly.
unbelievable.
What I missed his point was the funeral experience. I mean, they buried her, but they had then Nashua. I don't know how I got there, but I got to Akbar Press. I took a rickshaw or something, and they had the fire ceremony. And I'm standing in Akbar Press, and first of all, they give you this giant plate of food, and you were to eat it all. I'm very good at that. You were to eat it all, or it displeases the dead. And
So what do they have the fire ceremony for?
Well, it was just this giant fire, and it was just me and the priest and.
Was she Hindu? No, because she
No,
was buried.
she was
Zoroastrian.
Meru Mehta, Mirwan and his brother. Yeah. But it was so wild to see
52
this ceremony and to be in this house where these lovers of beloved Baba are so devoted to him, and yet they're just used the ceremony. They've all been, they had the string and that, Mirwan and his brothers all did the string.
That's a special.
Yeah.
So,
But it was like, it was so Baba in there, and then see the ceremony. Of course, it wasn't my religion of birth, but just to see it, it was such a look into how ritual can. It's heart. There can be heart in it. It's like.
Wow. That's amazing that they let the vultures all of that.
Oh,
It makes sense.
anyway, it continues. It says, Mundigar's job was a caretaker of the Tower of Silence. It was a lowly job, but with his earnings, he somehow managed to support his family of 2 sons and 1 daughter. Sheriar's mother had died when he was only 5 years old, and Mundigar was profoundly grieved by her passing, so he was a widower, the father of Sheriar.
The father of Sheriar.
Yeah, right, Mundigar. That was the middle name of Sheriar.
Okay.
Mundigar was not an Orthodox Zoroastrian, nor was he a zealot.
Do we want to turn that down?
That's, anyway, Mundigar was not an Orthodox Zoroastrian, nor was he a zealot. He had his own religious feelings and would participate in both Mohammedan and Zoroastrian festivals. It is said that he saw divinity in everyone, the soul in every man.
Even the father of Sheriar.
Right.
Now tell me who Mundagar was again.
The father of
Mundagar.
Sheriar.
Sheriar's father?
Yeah, but see, Sheriar took his middle name. Sheriar Mundagar Irani. But Mundagar was the father of Sheriar. But Sheriar had the middle name of his father.
Mundagar, yeah. I like that.
I did too.
Mundagar.
It is said that he saw divinity in everyone, the soul in every man. Mundagar was an enigma to his Muslim neighbors because he was a devout follower of a Mohammedan saint, a Wali Allah.
Where are we?
Page 120.
120?
Third paragraph.
Third paragraph.
And it says here,
Wali Allah.
a Wali Allah is a person of the fifth plane in the mental world.
Wow.
Mohammedans revere such a person as a saint or mastermind. The Sufi term literally means a friend of God.
Oh.
This Wali Allah was in a city called Khurramshar and was often seen going to this master, that was Mundagar, Sheriar's father. Because of his devotion to this Mohammedan saint, Mundagar and his children were spared the more cruel blows of persecution that faced most of the Zoroastrian community. So see, in a way, that was sort of nice.
Yeah.
Mundagar also practiced the tenets of his ancient faith and was an exceptionally good man who never neglected his paternal duty toward his children. It is said he considered the persecution at the hands of the Muslims as a means of spiritual self-effacement. Although poor, he constantly remembered God.
That's a good way of looking when your life gets...
Sure.
Yeah.
And because of this, he thought himself more fortunate than any wealthy person. Because he was poor, he remembered God. And because of this, he thought himself more fortunate than any wealthy person. Why don't you pick it up?
Isn't that true?
Why don't you pick up the last paragraph?
Okay.
After
his mother's death, Sheriar was well cared for by his older sister, Peroja,
Peroja, I think it's.
Peroja?
Yes, Peroja.
Peroja. Sheriar did not go to school, but would accompany his father to the Tower of Silence each day, where he would play alone or with the spirits that hovered there. The young boy had a contemplative nature, and this was where he would pray and meditate. In Persia at that time, only the children of the rich could obtain a formal education. There was no chance of admission in a school to a poor Zoroastrian. There's a little
dagger. Okay. Want me to read
I go
the
to
dagger?
page. No, it's okay. I can get it.
122.
121.
Fine.
Okay, the more cruel. No. Let's see. The ironic that he who was born to be. It is ironic that he who was to be born as the God-man should have had forefathers who were considered unbelievers and were ostracized by society, denied an education, fitting employment, and a chance for material happiness.
Boy, it shows you, man, there's no free, whatever,
That's
free,
right.
free brides for anyone.
For anybody.
Isn't
Isn't that unbelievable?
That is unbelievable. You tell that to Billy Graham and their followers.
Exactly.
They wouldn't believe it.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Who's that?
Debbie.
Oh,
They
Debbie,
wouldn't
okay.
believe it because they would say, if you're a good Christian, you deserve
Exactly.
the red carpet.
The red.
Get some-
Should I keep going?
Sure.
Okay. Often at night, during his lonely vigils over the dead, Mundagar would grieve for his departed wife, but his little son's companionship would comfort him. Sheriar's innocent talk would humor his bereaved father, and occasionally he would be awestruck by how innately wise his son was. During the years at the Tower of Silence, an intense interest in things spiritual was awakened in Sheriar, and he thought deeply about finding God.
Sai Baba.
He was an intelligent, adventurous boy, not afraid of anything. That characteristic remained throughout his life. He never knew fear. One day when Sheriar was 7 years old, we're reading about Baba's father.
Oh, cool. I like this part.
One day when Sheriar was 7 years old, his father left to do some work in the town, leaving him alone at the Tower of Silence. Mundagar was delayed in returning, and during the evening, the corpse of a child was brought. But since it was after sunset, the last rites could not be performed until daylight. Thus the funeral party left the corpse outside the wall of the tower. In that lonely, desolate area, hungry vultures hovered over the corpse, but little Sheriar threw rocks to keep them away. Sheriar, determined to protect the child's body, tied the legs of the child to his own feet and laid down next to the corpse.
Oh, what a sweet.
I don't even remember this. This is
How old
I
was he?
remember
Was
it.
he a little boy?
he was 7 years old.
7.
7.
That's so sweet.
The vulture's screeches became more furious,
Oh
but
my
not
God.
one swept down upon the boy.
Oh.
When Mundagar returned, he found Sheriar sleeping next to the corpse of the child with their legs tied together, and he was amazed at the bravery of his small son.
Oh, that's so
Is
sweet.
that beautiful? Like, makes me
Makes you
cry.
cry. Makes you want to cry.
Wow.
Every day in peaceful contemplation.
Hi,
Sai
honey.
Baba.
Mama.
Not yet.
Bobby will be here soon.
They'll be here in a minute, probably.
You want to go up? You want to go up?
Every day in peaceful contemplation, Sheriar would sit alone in the compound of the funeral grounds, immersed in the remembrance of God. The boy's heart had awakened, and he had began to long for the sight of God. One day, when he was absorbed in concentration, all of a sudden he was startled to see a young woman running toward him. When the girl, a Zoroastrian, reached him, she fearfully told Sheriar that Muslims were chasing her and asked him to help save her from the capture. There's a little thing here.
They're after this girl. These Muslims are so mean.
We've been reading horrible what they did. The more cruel Muslims would even break into the houses of Zoroastrians and forcibly kidnap
Sai
Sai
Baba.
Baba.
I've been the spy run.
Oh, good. Heidi's upstairs.
I came.
Heidi's
She's upstairs.
Heidi's upstairs.
Before me, we worked together this
Just
Yeah, she just got here.
That's good.
We're reading about Baba's
Baba's
father.
father.
Yeah,
Yes.
so beautiful.
We're talking about him at 7 years old right now, and he just tied his. There's a little a boy's body that was brought to the Tower of Silence, and at evening had fell, so they had to leave the body down. And Sheriar tied his foot to the little boy. He was 7. They were both. Okay, you remember.
I know
To
that.
save
Okay.
the boy from being eaten outside the
I know.
tower.
Okay,
Oh,
she
so
remembers.
See, the
sweet.
vultures never come if someone's alive.
Yeah, they're afraid. You
They're
can shake
afraid.
them, yeah.
That's right.
But I mean, do you have to move, or how do they know?
Yeah, he probably did this.
They almost
probably.
smell death.
I think they do smell
They
it too.
smell it because, but still, you know, I mean, the boy didn't know
Yeah,
that they wouldn't.
that's
get
right.
it, you know, and then the screeches must have been horrible.
Oh, God.
He was a brave little 7-year-old. Can't even imagine. So we're talking about
This
the
first
Muslims here.
communion.
The more cruel Muslims would even break into the houses of Zoroastrians and forcibly kidnap the girls of the family. The abductors would either get them married to Muslims in other areas or sell them as concubines.
Oh, my.
The girls would be often sent to Arabia, for example. In this way, the Muslim fanatics reduced the Zoroastrian population. This had happened to that girl, but she was in a back room and had escaped from her house. She had run toward the outlying forest where the Zoroastrian Tower of Silence was located and where Sheriar was. Afraid, she pleaded for help from Sheriar before the Muslims could capture her.
Oh, so she was running away from one of those houses.
From a house.
She was captured.
Yeah.
And she broke away.
Yeah. Exactly right. So let's see where I am here. Okay.
It's just such a saga,
Oh,
isn't it?
It is.
Wow.
Where is it? Okay. Nearby was a little bakery where unleavened bread was prepared and distributed to the poor by the relatives of the deceased in their memory. That day no one had died, and so the large oven was not lit. Sheriar guided the girl to it, helped her climb inside, and then returned to his place for meditation.
Put her in the oven.
Yes,
In that day, they weren't baking, so the oven was cool.
that's right.
Oh, Sai Baba, yeah.
Shortly thereafter, several Muslim horsemen came galloping.
Cornfield.
What's that?
Ozo.
Your t-shirt, they're laughing. What's that?
Corky the Ozo.
T-shirt, cornfield.
Corky the Ozo, he's cute.
Gus, you're a modern man.
You're
Your t-shirt, what is it?
good.
Are you okay?
A practical man.
Was that Popeye's baby?
Oh yeah,
Well, it's cute. It's very modern.
Yeah.
Gus.
Sweeping seat.
Oh, I love that
Sweepy.
cornfield.
Sweet.
What's that?
You're a cutie pie.
Yeah.
So,
Shortly thereafter, several Muslim horsemen came galloping up to the tower and demanded, "Boy, did you see a girl run past this way a few minutes ago?" Sheriar replied, "I have been here for almost an hour, but I haven't seen a dog pass by. No girl has run from here." Believing him, the Muslims rode off, and Sheriar was happy he had not lied.
What? He did not lie.
He didn't lie because he said,
No one has run from him.
he goes, "I have been here for almost an hour, but I haven't seen a dog pass by.
Oh,
Yeah.
so he used sort of...
No girl has run from here."
From here. But
See?
not to here.
I see.
Yeah.
Brilliant
So
for a
Right.
child.
You know,
what?
that's brilliant,
Yeah.
though, how you can not tell a lie, and you can...
Well, yeah.
I gotta remember that.
No,
I have not
really.
seen a dog pass by.
Well, what not that perfect master did the same.
Yeah,
Remember,
perfect master did the same thing.
He
Saved
hit someone
somebody.
in the.
And
Right?
he's changed the position where he was
Yeah,
sitting from right to
exactly.
left, and so no one has passed by
Oh,
here.
That's
I
right.
love
Yes,
it.
That's
Yeah.
Val would have
right.
vouched
And you
the
know
story.
why, then?
Yeah. To protect someone.
That's right.
After hearing those kind of stories, though, my mind works in that vein now, because then I
Yeah.
think, how can I say this and get away with it? Isn't that funny?
It's true. It's all right.
Sorry.
Believing him, the Muslims rode off, and Shahryar was happy he had not lied. It was a fact that no dog had wandered past that day, and the girl had not run from there. Shahryar went back to the bakery and safely escorted the young woman to her home, to the deep gratitude of her family.
Oh, okay.
Shahryar.
Okay, Sheriar's spiritual inclination flourished early, and he must have met the Mohammedan wali with his father. From childhood, he had a detached outlook on life and was devoid of any material ambition. He did not think of himself as prospering in this world. When a human corpse would arrive at the Tower of Silence, he would often think, "Death is inevitable. The happy as well as the miserable die. What is the meaning of life? What is its goal? Everyone departs from this world, leaving his or her joys and sorrows behind, so why not give them up while alive?"
Jeremy, it's so
But how?
funny. I sent you a card this very day,
Oh,
and it
no.
says, well, I gotta read. It's
Oh,
about,
That's so funny.
no, look, it's a quote about poise. What is spirituality? Poise. That state of mind in which nothing excites you, nothing upsets you. Thinking not of yourself but of others.
Isn't that perfect? I love it.
Yeah.
Rosalie always tunes in, doesn't she?
It's like surfing.
I know you do. Okay. Sheriar's heart was restless to find answers that would satisfy him, but he knew only God had the answers, so he decided to go in search of him. One day, in 1865, Sheriar told his father of his longing, bid farewell to his family, and left home. At the time, he was only 12 years old.
Well,
You know that the
Well,
last
like
last
Jesus.
play on Nara's birthday was the story of Baba's parents, and it went to the time of his birth.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah,
the proposal.
That's amazing, 12 years
Well,
old.
all these masters,
Wow.
you go
I
back
know.
into their backgrounds, they were all young.
Yeah,
Like Baba Jan was from a royal family.
yeah,
I know she was
She was like 18 or 17.
yeah.
She
Rode
was-
off
she
into
was
the
gonna be
desert.
betrothed to this gentleman to get married, and she says, "I'm married to someone else, to the
I'm married to
my
God.
beloved."
Here's one of you.
And she ran away by herself
I
with
know.
nothing,
with nothing.
disappeared to Afghanistan.
Like
Don't you
Buddha.
love that?
Buddha was same thing. Buddha.
Buddha, yeah.
Yeah.
Buddha.
But what courage these people
Buddha.
have!
I know.
He was a prince.
Oh
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Buddha was a
Wow.
prince.
Siddhartha.
They were on
Yeah.
fire with God, my
Yeah,
God.
they don't
If we
need
had
anything.
Baba, with us in the body, I mean, we'd be even more, huh?
Oh.
Thinking about it like that. Well, I think we're doing pretty good in the Kali Yuga, hey?
I think we are too.
Ah.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
We're helping each other.
That's right.
I know. The boy had never once stepped out of his hometown of Kuramashwar and did not know where to go when he began wandering throughout Iran. He walked with just a few items of clothing and would rest anywhere at night, sustaining himself on begged food. This young dervish had no support except from God. He relied solely on God. What other help did he need? He had dedicated himself to finding God and with the repetition of beloved God's name, Yezdan, 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 at every step, he searched for him.
Oh, but you know what's funny? You know who played the part of Sheriar was Alan.
Alan
Cohen?
No, Alan.
Alan the cook.
Wagner.
Oh,
And
him?
I had to
He has the
crack
big
up.
handlebar.
I could not seriously.
The Wizard of Oz. He reminds me of the
think
guy
he
from the
was
Wizard of Oz.
Sheriar. You know, he was just too funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's really.
He's so overly
He's so
dramatic.
theatrical.
Yeah,
You
well,
know
he
that-
is from New York.
Yes.
You know, Sheriar was not. Somehow it just.
No, it would be more. Yeah,
No,
I know.
just so inward, and he would go, "Yes, Don," and the Indians loved it.
Oh,
but
they
I was
did.
going, "Yes."
Indians love takes over the top.
Yeah, right.
They do.
Tell it to your mother.
Okay, there was a footnote. Dervishes were mostly wanderers then in Persia. In the spirituality of Sufism, a dervish is a person who renounces the world out of love for God and becomes an ascetic who does penance to purify his consciousness.
Wow. At 12, he did this.
Yeah.
His father let him do that.
He
Well, his
knew.
father was also a spiritual man.
He knew that he had a special son at hand.
Well, yeah, well, Sheriar was the same way about Baba, because
Yeah.
the mother was freaking out, and he just knew.
Yeah.
How come I lose a place? I can't believe it.
Oh, what case?
Are you on
We're
the
on
last
122.
paragraph?
Yeah, last paragraph, 122.
We're just intoxicated.
That's what it is.
God
Yeah.
intoxication here, right?
Wow.
Shahryar was destined to undergo severe hardships during his wanderings, but the young dervish ascetic did not lose courage. On the contrary, he gained inner strength through his sufferings, since he was coming nearer to God. Dervishes were not always well received in Iran. At times the boy received insults instead of food, yeah, we know. And at times he was beaten instead of given shelter, yeah, we know.
You know.
Okay.
Ah.
Let's see. Oh, I guess, all right. Alrighty. Okay. But he who discards the world becomes God's, and this was Sheriar's destiny. One day, the boy's roamings brought him to the town of Vafte Banyan. Exhausted and hungry, Sheriar approached a bakery, begging a loaf of bread for his evening meal. The baker was about to give him the bread when an older Muslim ascetic arrived, who would daily receive a loaf from the shop. The baker looked at the emaciated boy with pity and then told the Muslim ascetic, "Today you will not get bread because I am giving your portion to your little brother." The older ascetic became incensed at being denied his alms and began quarreling with the shopkeeper. "I am a true fakir," he shouted. "The boy is false. Are you really going to feed this rascal instead of me?"
Oh, opportunity for the fakir.
It can work on those scars of pride.
Exactly.
I just thought something that says, "Fuck are you?"
Naughty Rosalie.
Maybe that's where it came from. The word.
Oh, that's funny,
That is
Rosalie.
fun. I'll have to remember that.
Really?
Oh.
Is that Mark out
Yeah,
there?
Mark's
Is that his
coming.
truck?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, you get bread every day, argued the baker. Why are you grumbling if I give it once to a chance wanderer? He's such a young dervish. The older fakir gave Sheriar a contemptuous glance and then retorted, "You call this brat a dervish? You fool, I am a true fakir. This boy is nothing but a beggar."
Baba, this opportunity.
The heated quarrel went on and on while a crowd began to gather.
Wow.
At last the Muslim said, "If this boy is a real dervish who loves God and is not a hypocrite, I challenge him to answer my question."
Oh, I love this.
Shahryar wanted to avoid a debate and was ashamed of the fakir's rude behavior, but the shopkeeper and others in the crowd urged him to accept the challenge, so a vigorous debate about God ensued. With sharp wit and keen intelligence, the boy replied to every question the fakir could pose, while the crowd cheered him on. The fakir, who had gotten the worst of it, was thoroughly embarrassed and finally retreated under a barrage of abuse
Right.
from the crowd. Well, Sheriar was rewarded with a delicious supper.
Aw.
The boy had now become recognized as a Sufi dervish.
Okay.
wow.
Sai
Sai
Baba.
Baba.
Say Baba.
Baba.
Look at
Sai Baba. Sai
Say Baba,
Baba.
Mark.
Good timing, Mark.
Sai
Jai Baba.
Baba.
Some.
You what?
Pay for Sahaba.
Oh,
Did you
good.
stay for the meeting?
Sure.
All right.
Good.
Great.
There's a chair for you.
Chair waiting for you. In due
Are you
time.
going Sahaba too?
Yeah.
There's a chair here. if you
Yeah.
want.
Oh, no, so
I
I
still have to call David. And
Oh, you want to be far away.
I sent my check yesterday.
Oh, find out.
3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
San
Oh,
Bernardino.
so cool.
Pilgrim Time San Bernardino.
Oh, it'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
Maybe you must come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay. Sometimes Sheriar would travel with other renunciates. Once while traveling with 3 older dervishes, they took refuge in a dense forest, and sitting around the campfire, the 3 elders boasted of their travels, courage, and wisdom. In their eyes, their little brother was a mere initiate on the spiritual path. When their pride got the better of them, one of them said, "Were a tiger to appear before me, I have the strength to kill it with my bare hands."
Ah!
This is like a joke, right? The second responded, "I could reduce the beast to ashes with my sight alone."
This guy's bragging.
Yeah.
I love
The
it.
last bragged, "I would tame it and ride on its back and journey from place to place."
Oh!
The boy kept quiet.
Did
knowing,
it? Wasn't there a poster with someone riding on a lion?
Oh, yeah, but that's
I know.
yeah, the Indian boy. Okay.
Yeah.
The boy kept quiet, knowing he possessed no such powers. The next day, as they were wandering through the forest, they spotted a python, and the 3 who had been boasting of their bravery the night before ran away in fright.
Oh.
Sheriar found a rock and fearlessly crushed the head of the large snake. Even when the head of a snake is crushed, its body continues to coil. Likewise, when the boy approached the 3 men, their pride had not subdued, and they said,
Wow.
"Don't think we were afraid of the python. To kill it was so insignificant. We left it to you since you are the youngest."
Oh,
The
man.
boy did not rebuke them.
Oh.
Besides wandering through such wilderness while always searching for the truth of God, Sheriar visited many shrines, including the tombs of the Sufi poets Hafiz
Oh.
and Sanai in Shiraz, and contacted many advanced pilgrims in Iran. Let's see.
Wow.
This is about Baba's father.
In the course, this is the footnote. In the course of Sheriar's wanderings in Iran, and from his contact with advanced pilgrims of the spiritual path, he learned palmistry and astrology, but he never practiced these occult sciences except for his own private interest.
Ah.
My astrologer.
You're half astrologer.
You're half astrologer.
Oh, you have. Okay. All right.
Because I don't go to anybody. Just Rosalie will call me with something.
However, the young man was as dissatisfied and discontented as when he had left his home. 8 years of the hardest type of austerities and a penitent type of asceticism had not fulfilled his aim to gain one ray of the face of the sun, wisdom. Frustrated and disappointed in Iran, the young man of 20 still had sight of attaining his goal. Instead of despairing and abandoning his search for God, he resolved to leave for India to carry on his search. In 1873 or 1874, with his elder brother Kodadad, Sheriar boarded a steamer headed for the port of Bombay. In India, Kodadad found employment in a shop and prevailed upon Sheriar to do the same. Sheriar agreed, and his brother arranged a position for him in the same shop. But in spite of accepting a job for the first time in his life, Sheriar did not change his ascetic ways. He strictly maintained his vegetarian diet, as well as denying himself alcohol and tobacco. He was virtuous and endowed with a natural goodness. When off work, he spent most of his time meditating or reciting the name of God. Yezdan, Yezdan, Yezdan.
Mani remembers his mouth moving.
Really?
He used to repeat God's name all the time, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. As a child, she said she remembers his mouth moving.
Wow.
Wow.
His concentration was only on beloved God. His heart longed for the ray of the sun. Even while doing his job, Sheriar's whole inner intention was directed toward remembering God.
Wow.
You want me to read from
The
here?
last,
That's
or
it.
Esther
Oh, Esther? Yeah.
is the last.
So good. I want to tell you that last play we have on tape.
Oh, great.
It's like Mara watching the play. It's far out. It's very flatly videotaped, but sometimes see it. And it's really something.
Is that the one where the curtain burned up?
Yeah, that's the day the curtain, the pandal got caught electrical fire. And it's interesting because it's sort of like Mara was the buffer between the sun and then you know. That Mani said she was a balancing wheel, and then when she was gone, it's like more of the fires. As we know.
He made no show, but he also made no secret of his devout nature. His hair was long, and he always wore a long white robe, looking every inch typical Persian dervish. Obviously, he was not a typical employee in a public shop. The shopkeeper was very much the opposite, a materialist who despised Sheriar's piety and would scold him on the slightest pretext. Although Sheriar had come to India seeking light, in that shop he found only darkness. When the owner finally accused him of dishonesty, he quit rather than be the target of such unjust accusations. Thus, after 5 months, Sheriar was free once again. He took his wages but kept only 2 rupees. The rest he gave away.
Wow.
It seems I don't know. It seems as if this employment, which had been thrust upon him, was destiny's brief respite for Sheriar, although the job had not been easy. As his destiny unfolded, Sheriar was to wander for 10 more years throughout India under circumstances much more trying than those he had already undergone in Iran. With the 2 rupees he had kept, Sheriar purchased a wooden bowl and a staff with no further money. With no further money, he decided to walk to Karachi, over 1,000 miles north.
In that hut, so.
Well, see, that society allows you to do that. You can be a beggar and survive, apparently, or in those days you could. I mean, here, nobody would. I don't know. Okay, where am I? Okay.
He wandered.
Okay. He wandered through Gujarat and Kutch or Cooch, whatever, begging his way through Surat, Wadwan, and Mandvi. The long days of walking severely blistered his feet, yet he did not stop. He would find shelter under a tree at night, and during the day continued walking and walking, repeating the name of God. Yezdan, Yezdan, Yezdan. If he happened to be given food when he begged, he would eat. Otherwise, he would consider it God's wish that he fast. Sheriar's path crossed that of many sadhus, yogis, and penitent ascetics, and he took refuge at places of pilgrimage. After a rigorous walking journey of 4 months, at last he reached Karachi. Why he journeyed to that city is not known, but after staying a month there, he resumed his journey, this time without a fixed destination. What a fate. Sheriar began wandering aimlessly in the scorching Sind desert, S-I-N-D, desert. The hot sand again blistered his feet. His tongue swelled from thirst. Resting on the burning sands offered no relief from the bright sun blazing overhead. He tried desperately to plod forward, but he was so weak he could not move 1 step farther, and after crying out, Yezdan, he fainted. There was neither water nor shelter in this part of the desert. Sheriar's death seemed certain. Was this the end of his spiritual search? Would the ascetic die of thirst in this seemingly God-forsaken place? Had he been wandering all these years in search of God only to die in this cruel way? He did not die yet. Slowly he opened his eyes.
Well said, Esther. I like that.
Standing before him were two figures staring at him.
Oh.
An old bearded man and a boy. Each was holding leather bags filled with life-giving water. Sheriar struggled to his knees and stretched out his hands for water. The boy poured a little into his palms, but Sheriar's thirst was not quenched. Extending his hands toward the figures, he silently prayed for more, but no more was given. Both figures turned and walked away. Sheriar stared at them until they disappeared, and then with all his strength stood up. Realizing if he stayed where he was, he would die, he took God's name, Yezdan, and stumbled onward. But after going a short distance, he again fainted. How could he cross the desert? He had neither water nor food, and he was alone in a remote, barren region. Who would help him? Had he hallucinated sipping the water? Then, startled from unconsciousness, he saw the old man and boy again standing before him, ready to help. This time they allowed Sheriar to drink fully of the cool water. His eyes conveyed his gratitude, yet the old man sternly asked, "Why have you come here? Why do you distress the Almighty with your foolish behavior?" Sheriar could not answer. Pointing, the old man instructed, "Take this path. You will come across the hut of a hermit. He will feed you. After you have eaten, if you walk in the opposite direction, you will find a town." Seems like here the lesson is God doesn't want people to just unnecessarily take risks and put themselves in dangerous situations. It makes a lot of trouble for God to
Exactly.
rescue them. That's what Kitty told me once. She said, because I was risking finding a driving partner to drive back from Myrtle Beach, because I drove there with Erwin Luck and so on, and he says, "Oh, you'll find somebody to drive back with you." I had nobody to drive back with. And I said, "Well, Erwin takes risks and expects Baba to rescue him," and she said, "I know that." So, it makes too much trouble for Baba. That's what she said. Okay. Sheriar could not answer. Okay, the question was, why do you distress the Almighty with your... Why have you come here? Why do you distress the Almighty with your foolish behavior? Sheriar could not answer. Pointing, the old man instructed, "Take this path. You will come across the hut of a hermit. He will feed you. After you have eaten, if you walk in the opposite direction, you will find a town." I read that already. Sheriar listened to the advice with head bowed. He felt revived after drinking the cool water. When he raised his head to thank the old man and boy, there was no one there. He was awestruck and humbled, and his trust in God's protection was strengthened. Full of love and gratitude, he prostrated himself on the sand and prayed with all his heart. But who were the old man and the boy? They were divine messengers. They were Abdals, spiritual agents of the perfect masters who rescue endangered persons as they traverse the spiritual path.
Goosebumps.
Abdals.
Taking the path shown through the sand, Sheriar walked to the hut where an old hermit gave him bread that was offered without his asking. Sheriar ate half at the hut and took the other half with him as he walked in silence toward the town. But why did they only give him a little bit of water to begin with, and then they went away, and then I don't know. Okay, I'm just wondering.
They pointed him where he needed to go. They gave
No, but first they didn't really help him very much. They just gave him a little bit of water and then they left.
And they scolded him.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, after walking some miles, Sheriar came to the banks of a very broad, swift river, which he could not cross, as he did not know how to swim. Although he wondered if he followed the directions properly, he was not alarmed, fully believing that God would send someone to help him across. Sheriar decided to lay down near the banks to wait and fall asleep, but after a short nap, he was awakened by the sound of tinkling camel bells. A caravan had arrived, and Sheriar asked his leader how he intended to to cross the river. The man replied that the river had become shallow enough to allow the camels to cross, and that the men would ride on them. When Sheriar implored the man to take him across the river, he demanded 2 rupees. Sheriar explained that he was a renunciate dervish and had no money, not even a paisa. But the greed-ridden man did not believe him, and proceeded to take his caravan across the river, gradually disappearing. Although no one else arrived, Sheriar was not worried. Trusting in God, he was convinced that his mercy would find a way to get him across the river. As night fell, does anybody feel like reading? Okay.
It's loud.
Anybody?
Because cannot hear it.
Well, tell them to move in.
Yeah,
I cannot
I was
understand.
already
Maybe-
reading.
Maybe people could bring
Move closer, here.
Mark, you wanna come sit here?
Here. You know, I've been working all day. So I
Yeah,
kinda
it's better.
sweat.
Yeah, cool here.
He's
Now.
being considerate.
Yes. No, it's
Kinda
okay.
sweaty,
It's
but-
Well,
okay.
if Gus
Yes,
Gus
yes.
Can
Gus
hear.
come here.
Yes. You can
Mark
hear.
could move up then if Gus
You'll
goes.
hear better.
You okay? You okay? You play?
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay.
Here, okay. Well, who said it in the first place?
Okay.
Sai Baba.
Say
Sai
Baba.
Baba. Good to see you. As always.
Okay, where are we?
You look like a dervish in your robe. In her like thing, isn't it?
I've had a spinner too. Oh, let's see. Sure, I take your pen. Okay. Have to work with it. Oh, yeah, okay. As night fell, an inner peace came. The moon shone brightly, and Sheriar's tranquility merged with the silvery reflection in the rippling waters. I like Vow so poetic, it's so beautiful.
Isn't he? Such a poet.
Yeah. Awestruck by the splendor of nature's beauty so near to the desolation of the desert, his heart longed more than ever for the sight of God. He had searched for so long. He wept out of longing and joy. Seated on the bank of the river, feeling hungry, he took out the remaining half loaf of bread. Schools of fish swam before him, and seeing them, Sheriar broke the bread into pieces, tossing them to the fish. Sweet.
Yeah.
His appetite left him in the enjoyment of watching the fish leap out of the water for the crumbs.
Aww.
Suddenly, he heard his harsh voice demanding, "What are you doing here?" Turning around, he faced a tall, burly man who towered over him. Oh, Padre. "I am waiting to be taken across the river. I cannot swim," he answered. Hearing his reply, the stranger laughed and said, How do you expect to cross it by sitting here? You don't have to swim. Come with me and I will show you a way." Sheriar arose and followed the man to a mud embankment that stretched all the way across the river. Is that stretching? He was perplexed to see this natural bridge, which he was certain he would have noticed earlier, and inwardly he began to praise God for his mercy. So good. The angel. Reaching the other side, Sheriar was about to thank the mysterious guide when the man took his hand in his and said, "There is no need to thank me. Hold on. I will take you through a shortcut to the town." The guide swiftly zigzagged through the darkness, talking cheerfully along the way. Sheriar felt a strange sensation as he held on, listening to the man's conversation. He felt as if the earth was slipping away beneath his feet. After...
I love
Who's
it.
that song? I feel the earth
Move under my
Who is
feet.
that?
Carol King.
Oh, yeah. Sheriar
Mean
felt
that
a
too.
strange sensation as he held on, listening to the man's conversation. He felt as if the earth was slipping away beneath his feet. After a short time, the lights of a town were visible, and before he knew it, he was walking in a bustling street. The guide took him to a pawn and tobacco shop and said, "Wait for me until 11 o'clock. Then he walked away.
I do too.
He had covered 60 miles in about a half an hour.
That's the best way to travel.
He then knew that God had sent an angel to help him. And his heart cried out, "Oh, yes, Don. Oh, beloved God, you are infinitely loving. You are infinitely merciful. But why don't you allow me to have sight of you? My life is only for you. I love you alone." Okay. But who was there at Marana when Val had to say this prayer? Because it's been ringing in my mind. It's so good. Yes, Meher Baba, you are our beloved. We love you. We love you.
I do
We
always.
love you.
Under the
We
shower,
love you.
everybody says,
We
"Yes,
love
I love
you."
it, Meher Baba.
Oh,
I
isn't
love
that
you, I
great?
love you, I love you, I love you."
Oh, let's say that together now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
They said it 5 times.
Okay.
and
Okay.
man, this is so good.
So how do we do it?
How you do?
Yes,
Meher Baba,
you are our beloved. We love you. We love you. We love you. We love you. We love you.
Sai Baba.
Pardon me? We're having a meeting. We are having a meeting.
No money.
No. Only joy. No money. No money. We want to go on with our meeting. We want to go on with our meeting. Yeah. Maybe someone has more money. No. Sorry, no.
We don't smoke.
No. Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba, have a nice evening.
Jai Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Meher Baba ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
No, we don't smoke.
No.
We don't smoke.
I think you'll do better somewhere else.
Now, it's better what people are distributing.
You love this?
We don't smoke.
This is after we say the prayer. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know, you could be.
Not taking out.
My brother, we're having a meeting.
We're having a meeting.
We're having a meeting.
We're having a meeting.
We're having a meeting. What?
Meher Baba.
Please.
Yeah. We want to lock the door.
Please.
We want to lock the door.
Sir.
We want to lock the door. We want to go.
We want you. You don't want to be in the meeting, really. And we're enjoying this meeting. That's what we're meeting for. For Meher Baba. Yeah, thank you. Jai Baba.
Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Lock the door.
That's so cute. Right as we're saying the prayer, though, we love you, we love you, we love you. Our love brought him in the door.
That's energy.
Jai Baba for him.
But
He got a Baba blessing.
One time someone came in here, and then he comes, he was just wired, this young guy. And
Remember
I
the
thought,
guy
well,
ran upstairs?
he's
Remember
a
the day I ran upstairs at the Merity?
Oh.
Remember? I ran upstairs. You guys were... Deborah remembers, because she remembers my reaction.
Oh.
I felt the guy coming across the street before it happened.
Yeah.
I looked out all of a sudden, I looked out the
Just
window.
now?
No. What happened one time where I ran up because I felt I was supposed to get away from him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to ask you, who's supposed to feed that guy? Who's supposed to, example I mean?
That's what I was.
Well, he
Because I
drank.
wanna know.
He's drunk.
I know.
He's
What's
drunk.
wrong?
You couldn't tell?
Yeah, I
Something,
thought
but maybe he
something
had a speech impediment. I didn't know.
No,
But
he
I
was
don't know
drunk.
if
He
this-
was drunk.
Who's responsible in this country for these people?
No one.
That's what's sad.
Iran even told country, but we don't have Afghan people on this street.
I know, it's wrong,
They have
isn't
a
it?
house for them. They
Yes.
have to take care of these people. But
Yes.
here is all of the street.
I know, it's
He's
terrible.
hungry, he's thirsty, he's cold.
That's
he's
right.
sick, you know what I mean?
He's in pain or he
Who
wouldn't
has
be drunk.
Who has to take care?
He's in some kind of pain or he wouldn't be drinking.
And he's got a liver
No, but he
problem.
wants
He's all
money.
extended
I
on his
know.
stomach and all that.
Yeah, he wanted
Well,
money.
why-
He wanted money to go buy more alcohol.
Yeah.
And that's why it's hard. I try not to give alcohol, I try to give them food.
Yeah.
If you really
He has food in
care.
his hand.
Yeah.
I saw it some
Yeah.
Well, they can get food stamps, can't they? Or
Therefore, I'm telling you, that they help to
If he's
foreign.
coherent, he can, but he may not be even
I
quiet.
mean,
But
you
you
know,
don't
they
have
have to have an
He left
address
here
to
saying
get
J
J
food.
Baba.
Oh, I said J Baba.
And we got
Yeah,
to
he
say,
said, "Hey, Baba."
He did
Yeah.
say
We
J
should-
Baba.
We were saying we love you. We love
Yeah.
you. We love
He
you.
needed it.
I said that's so
He
Baba.
needed it.
He
Yeah.
can't be telling you we love you.
It's so
We're saying we love you, we love you.
the love brought him that door. I think it's fabulous. I wasn't scared of
I wasn't
Yeah.
And he looked right at us. He looked at us and I thought, you never know
You know, if you
what
watch
Bob
the
is
TV, what
teaching
you
either.
see,
You don't know who he was. He could have been. We don't know who he was.
When he was an
I have
infant,
had
he told
more
you,
so-called homeless, drunk people to give me things and help me that I know not to judge them. I know they're agents. Like all this stuff we're reading. I know that's why I never, unless I feel scared, I run up the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's interesting? We're talking about these things. Do you remember Joe Azzarello? The piano player, and he was into Baba, and he went to the first Havas and everything, and then he went to San Diego, and he got more into Jesus and got into more kind of like mystical, ascetic, occult type of things. I mean, not toward anybody, but innerly, and kind of let Baba go. And I had to go down there for acupuncture because I wasn't well, and my friend turned me on to this acupuncturist, and she started healing me. So I was there. I called him. I haven't seen him in years, right? So after a few times of going down and finally meeting up with him, he says, "Do you have the Parvardagar prayer? Do you have a copy of the Master's Prayer?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, "Well, what about God Speaks?" I'm looking at God Speaks, right? I go, "Yeah." You know, I have this one that I've had for, a long, so I bring it to him, and I bring him God Speaks. And, I haven't heard from him for like 3 months. So instead of him having it for 2 weeks, he's had it for 3 months. So, and it's like, it's precious to me. It's very funny. I mean, you know how you have your books that, that you go to and everything.
Yeah.
So I go and I call his number last night, thinking, how's he doing? And I'll get my book back, because he doesn't even live there anymore. It's another person lives there, and they don't know where he is.
Oh,
and I thought, and I just thought, well, I mean, he's got God Speaks.
Yeah.
He was meant to have
He'll
God
get another
Speaks.
one.
So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to buy that book, and I'm going to buy, and Rose Bowery has How a Master Works of Mine, and I'm looking at these books. But, it's just funny how Baba, he's not around.
Oh, Judy told me a good
You
thing.
know what I mean? But he's got he had gone away from Baba, and then requested, and now he's got it with him wherever he goes. Interesting, you know?
Yeah. That is interesting.
Like Baba, said, it's okay, he needs it, Deb.
Yeah, he needs it more than you do right
He
now.
needs it more than I do, and it's interesting. I've been thinking about it a lot.
While you're staring at it?
I'm staring at it and thinking,
That's amazing.
yeah. And Rose Bauer, I let her read my How a Master Works, which was getting through a very trying time, and I don't know if she sold it in a book sale or where it is.
Yeah.
These were like,
wow. It's amazing. It took a lot of courage for that guy to walk in here.
No, the door was open.
Oh, was it open?
Yeah, it was open.
But still, a lot of times when they're like that, they don't come in where people are.
Yeah, you guys were praying, I guess.
We were going, we love you, we love you, we love you.
Must have sound wonderful. But Judy shared this, Baba's words. She said it's not verbatim. She didn't know the exact quote. It is your responsibility to get my name from the mouth to the ear. It is my responsibility, Baba's
from the ear to the
responsibility
heart.
to get it from the ear to the heart.
I remember that.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed, because I'm around these stand-ups all the time, and they just really trash Jesus all the time. You know what I mean? But Baba's name is so powerful, you can't even say it angrily.
Wow.
It bounces, you know. Try to say, be mad and say Baba. It's just like, it bounces that.
No, I
Baba.
can do that. You know, I have this pendant that Money gave to Mia, and Mia gave it to me for Mother's Day. And now everywhere I go, I have this one person at work who's the secretary, and one day she was going like this to me, and I go, well, what are you doing? She goes, oh, I'm bowing to your guru, Meher Baba. I mean, just as like a heart joke, and I go, oh, I bow to you.
Did she see that it was?
She knows it's
she
Meher
knew it
Baba
was
because
Meher
she had
Baba.
asked me, and she's a Mormon.
Oh.
And I went to her wedding, and she's a very, very wonderful person. So it's like something she does, and people are always looking at this and going, oh, who's that?
It's so sweet.
And just look at how little it is. It's like, it's really hard.
I know it.
It's funny.
Homeopathic.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny with Joe? So he's been this away from Baba, and now he's got that wherever he is. You know?
Yeah, thirsty.
Yeah. Well, it's got everything in the God Speaks. You know, I'm curious. You can read whatever you want to. You can find out anything.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, funny, Freddie. We say we love you, and this person comes in.
It was perfect. So you know what he needed.
I always have mixed
His
feelings
soul
though,
needed that.
because
Maybe.
I don't know.
His soul needed to be reinforced that we love you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we were conveying.
Yeah.
And his soul, speaking to his soul, not just to.
And the timing of it, like him being there and us deciding to just say it spontaneously, it was very healing.
Couldn't ask for a better cue, you know, like
It's
there
up
he is.
near the Hollywood side. Yeah, nice.
So it's like we're taking a break. So
Should we
where
go on?
were we? Yes.
Look at the talk about it. Like this.
Intense longing for God realization overcame Sheriar. From the divine help he had experienced, his heart longed to see God, and his search for him became even more intense. He resolved within himself to sacrifice his very life in pursuit of God, and he vowed not to give up this pursuit under any circumstance. Saved from death by God, Sheriar roamed once more throughout India under clouds of austerity and deprivation. Barefooted, bearded, in a dervish robe, he walked through streets, down lanes and alleys to contact saints and advanced pilgrims for help in his search. He denied himself food or comfort for their contact. At night, he would rest wherever he could, along a sidewalk of a street or under a tree in the wilderness or in a cave. He begged for whatever food he received and, as always, accepted it as God's mercy. He's beautiful. I forgot he was this beautiful.
I know, he's so beautiful.
In the course of Sheriar's travels in India, he wandered through Arangaon village by the army post near what is now Mehrabad, the ashram and tomb of Meher Baba, on his way to the city of Ahmednagar. It is not recorded what his contacts or activities in Ahmednagar were.
Isn't that fascinating? He went there too.
Yeah.
Before you were married.
Yeah.
I lost my place for him. Oh, safe from God. He walked and walked, mile after mile, year after year. His feet became raw, cut by rocks and stones, and thorns pierced his wounds. But the wounds on his feet were nothing compared to the wounds in his heart. A burning love urged him on with the name of Yezdan, Yezdan, Yes, I like the sound of yes.
I do too. Yes.
I like Ohura Mazda.
I do too.
I do
Those are my
too.
two favorites of
Yeah.
all those.
Ohura Mazda.
Whenever I
Ohura
come
Mazda.
behind a Mazda, I go,
Ohura
it's so
Mazda.
nice. Ever on his lips, yes, time, yes, time, yes, time. His search to see God continued. When Sheriar reached Gujarat, he saw a village some miles in the distance, beyond a small river. In the middle of the river was an island thick with vegetation. The local people, however, were superstitious and warned him not to go there. No one ventures across this river, they said, because of the soft, muddy bottom, brambles all over the island, and a hideous ghost lives there. Take our advice, do not go on to that island, but take the road to the town 5 miles ahead. But Sheriar replied, I am not afraid of ghosts. If there is a ghost on that island, I shall meet him. I love it. I love it.
That place was in India. Happened that stuff in India.
It's India.
Sheriar
Yeah,
is
Gujarat.
Yeah.
Irrespective of their counsel, he began to wade through the shallow river. Shallow water. By the time he reached the island, it was dark, and instead of finding a ghost, he found himself ensnared in a dreadful jungle with overhanging vines, which made his pathway cumbersome.
Jeez.
Fumbling about and again wading across the river from what he thought was the other side of the island, he forged his way, but found himself exactly where he had started. It was too late then to take the longer road, so he decided to try to wade across the river once again. But this time he wanted to avoid the island. He entered at another point, but when he reached midstream, he stepped into quicksand.
Oh,
That's what I thought of when that soft mud.
yeah.
His staff sank in the soft mud. The more he struggled to get out, the more he sank.
Oh, God.
While sinking in the mud, he prayed, "Oh God, if it is your will that I should die in this way, I am ready. But before I die," reconsider it. "But before I die, allow me to have one glimpse of your effulgence.
Oh.
For years I have thirsted for your sight. I have not cared about my life. Give me a glimpse of your beauty before I die." Or he said, "that I may live." Concentrating on repeating God's name, Sheriar struggled, pulling himself out of the quagmire. When he reached the other side, he collapsed, thanking God for rescuing him. After a while, hearing some villagers, Sheriar hailed them. "Show me the way to the town," he requested. Seeing this strange, ominous figure rising out of the shadows covered with mud, the men ran away, shouting, "The ghost! The ghost of the island is after us!" A few of the men cautiously approached him, holding lanterns and clubs in their hands. And when they were reassured that he was indeed only a stranger in need of guidance, they brought him to their village and attended to his needs. In the course of his travels throughout India, Sheriar came across different types of yogis, ascetics, and penitents. Once he encountered a man in Ratlam who had been sitting for years in one position, supported only by his thumbs.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
Must have some.
Yeah.
Yogi. But this
Supported by his thumb. Look at his thumb.
His
Thumb.
Supporting
Balancing on his thumb.
on his thumb.
Yeah.
He's a yogi.
For years.
Wow.
I know.
But this form of asceticism was not for Sheriar, nor the rest of them. His suffering was a thirst for the wine of love.
Hmm.
Shortly thereafter, in the same district of Ratlam, well, it sounds like Alice in Wonderland here. He encountered an old woman seated near a lake on the outskirts of the town. She made signs for him to go into the village, which he did. Everything there was spotlessly clean, but not a single living person was around. No
Wow, it's like Alice in
Wonderland.
Wonderland.
Amazed, Sheriar instantly realized that the village was an apparition, an illusion, to be taken as a metaphor. Though the house of the heart is pure, it takes ages for God to enter.
Ah.
Wow. He returned to the old woman who gave him a loaf of bread as prasad. After eating, he left without having exchanged a word with her. While journeying through the hills near Jaora, Sheriar encountered an old man seated on a hill, deeply immersed in meditation. After some time, the man opened his eyes and asked, "What do you want?" Sheriar replied, "I do not want anything." Hearing this, the old man was deeply pleased and said, "You are blessed." In the midst of his travels during this 10-year period, during his 10 years of wandering in India, 10 years,
Wow.
one other time God saved Sheriar's life. He tried to cross a river, but the current was so swift that it nearly swept him off his feet. If he had fallen, he would have surely drowned. By God's grace, Sheriar managed to forge across, though he feared he might die then.
Does Gus want to read? Gus, do you want to read?
He has sore throat.
Sore throat?
Sore throat today?
Yeah, sore throat.
Oh.
Mark?
You want to read?
Yeah.
You want to read? Okay, where am I?
Right there, in the midst of his travels.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right there, in the midst of his travels. In the middle, sort of in the little below the middle of the page.
Okay.
In the midst of his travels. We already did that footnote.
Oh, in the midst of his travels, during this you read that. Although Sheriar encountered many sadhus, yogis, ascetics, and saints in India, none of them could satisfy his inner quest, nor quiet his restlessness. He was destined to find peace in a different way. During 1884, at the age of 31, the ascetic Sheriar became increasingly despondent with his austere ways. Despair and desperation toward his heart and mind. For the first time, he began to doubt if his aim would ever really be achieved. He felt hopeless as never before. He knew that with his formidable determination, he could venture anywhere, yet he could not accomplish what he wanted, to realize God. He was breaking down. His perseverance was turning into bitter frustration. As a last resort, Sheriar wandered to an isolated forest in Gujarat, where he decided to perform what is known as the Chilla.
What is it again?
The 40-day and night fast within
What's the name of it again?
Chilla.
Oh, the Chilla.
Chilla.
The 40-day and night fast within a secluded circle.
Oh, Chille, not Chilla. They got to be 40 days, they say something else, they call Chille. Okay.
Chile?
Like Chile? Chile?
Chile.
How do you spell it? How does it
Well, it
spell?
spells like Chilla.
Chilla, like Chilla.
Right.
Yeah.
The spiritual practice is also called Chilla.
Chille, yeah.
Chilla. Nashini.
The Chille Nashini. Every word is Iranian, I can't remember.
Nashini is the person who does the
Sit.
Is the person who does the 40-day fast and remains seated in the circle of seclusion.
Wow.
Those who try but do not succeed usually die or suffer madness.
So is this like what Jesus did? The 40-day, he did
40
the chill?
days and 40 nights?
Everybody does that. God said, whatever you want, to give it to you. 40 days. Sit some days and then...
I'm just saying that we know that
Jesus did the
Jesus
40
did
days
the
and the
40
40
day,
nights.
40
Yes.
Jesus,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have been he was doing that part of the
See?
Yeah.
yeah,
Process.
of like all the
Participating, like Baba said.
all the avatars do. Maybe they all do it.
Yeah.
Okay, it says those who try but do not succeed usually die or suffer madness. Chilla Nashini is a severe penance.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the penance Chilla Nashini is known to both Sufi and Vedantic as ascetics, but few ever dare to attempt it. Since failure in the penance has other dangers, refer to page 78 in the book, the book The Nothing and the Everything, for further explanation of this penance. Western mystics also refer to the 40 days and nights of Jesus outside Jerusalem, where he encountered Satan.
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus. No,
Where he encountered Satan or faced the powers of temptation.
So does this mean an average person could do this chilla?
Yeah.
If you took up a vow
They say it's very
to
dangerous,
spend
though.
40 days
Dangerous.
And nights.
40
You
nights.
can't leave.
You
can't leave.
do other people circle you, or you
draw the circle.
you draw a circle
And you stay in the circle.
and you don't eat?
You don't, no.
Maybe somebody gives you something, some peanut or something.
Yeah.
But supposedly
Date.
nothing
Give
can,
the date.
supposedly nothing is
No,
supposed to
no
cross the
dating.
circle.
No dating.
Dates.
In other words, most likely it would be a country site. I mean, rural
West
in,
side.
the, in the mountains. So I remember the Pearsons had this place at Big Bear where we went up to their cabin, and we came out on this clearing, and I said to them, you know, this reminds me of where these fairies would come out and form a dance around this
Ring.
There was like an old
A fairy ring.
Fairy
stump
ring.
of a tree that almost looked like an altar, and it was this grassy meadow that the grass was really green and very welcoming, and there was these like a cathedral of trees, a forest around it, and it formed a natural circle. And I made the comment, I says, you know, I bet you fairies dance here. And Christine and Chris looked and said, yeah, you know, we feel something strange about this place. And that almost is like a as their old place at Big Bear. Well, their parents, Chris and Christine parents, still go up there. But anyway, wow, we're learning these things about Achilla.
Yeah.
Muhammad, Hafiz did it as well.
He
Oh, did he?
Okay, can I tell you something?
You know, you could do Chilla and Miramount.
You know,
Yeah, but look at the consequences, though.
What
Lots of
happens?
people
You could go mad.
after 40 days
Like
is
borrowing
finished,
trouble.
exactly, that our 40
You
days
did it?
is no, I can't. 40 days finished, God or Jesus or Baba comes in somebody else's face to you. Like you sit there, or some policeman comes, or some beggar
And it will
comes
be
like
God,
him, like
yes.
him.
And you see,
He asks you
and you'll
something.
see a face.
You see somebody's
Oh my
figure
God.
out. Somebody come to you, don't know, like the beggar came now
Yeah,
here.
the beggar that came in.
Yeah, you maybe throw him out like now we did it. But if you catch his daman, exactly, maybe he's Baba, maybe he's...
That's right. He could have been.
I know, because he came in when you were saying,
We love you. We love you. We love you.
Maybe can be that.
And the way he looked at us that one time, did you see that? Where he went like this, he went. And it was just that look, I went, I don't know, just let him sit a little bit.
Yeah, I know, I saw
He
that.
disappeared. I thought he would go by the window, but he
he
didn't.
disappeared into Pooh Fair.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
We throw out Baba,
Abdul.
see?
Abdul!
You know how I love those?
Because you know, that would be just like Baba. We were talking about Abduls.
That's right.
It would be just like Baba to send an Abdul to this meeting.
Absolutely, because we're reading about it.
Oh, Baba.
You know what?
That's what I mean, right in that
What do we
moment.
do? What do
But
we
we
do?
were, I'm sorry, ignorant. We couldn't
Sure, don't try
recognize
to
it. You know what I
find
mean?
No,
None
we
of
did-
us recognize it.
No,
We acted
we
natural.
did everything.
We acted
We did
natural.
everything naturally.
Maybe he was not that.
We were
naturally
natural.
wanted.
We weren't
You know,
trying to be
what for a sin?
sanctimonious.
Yeah.
He was
But
drunk.
Mark
Yeah.
smelled the
Yeah.
liquor.
A lot of times
I
they
think-
are drunk.
I think an Abdul, though, wouldn't be drunk.
Oh, they are sometimes.
Would they?
Yeah, they are sometimes. They come in all kinds of ways that
And
you
we were
least
not,
expect.
we were not in Chile.
I've had some very drunk people be very profound.
Well,
You can't do
40 days.
You can't do
as caretaker, I have to make
Oh,
a
yeah.
decision. Because this other guy came in one time, a young guy, and he came one day, and then, he seemed very wired. And he said he was a rock musician, and, he seemed interested in Baba. He comes back almost a year to the day, just a few days before. He comes again, and all of a sudden I just got this intuition that he was just loaded. I thought he was just some people are wired.
Yeah.
I used to be accused of being on a drug,
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I was sitting at the door he was sitting there and I was sitting on a chair next there, and I said, I says, Meher Baba doesn't like us to use drugs unless they're prescription. And he went, he was just so angry. He went, and he pointed to Baba's picture and said, it's all your fault! And I says, I'm not telling you what to do. I says, I'm just telling you what he said. And then he left.
Wow.
Oh dear, she's alone by herself.
Well, I usually leave the door open. If I feel, usually if it's a man, I'll leave the door open for a while, and I'll get some sensing.
Baba brought the right person as housekeeper, his housekeeper.
Absolutely.
Right person.
Absolutely.
And then one time Harry comes in, and he goes into the bathroom, and I was just coming in quickly and pick up the phone messages and go back out, and Harry had work to do. Harry leaves the door open when I'm in the office. I come out, and there's someone almost to the roof. He's tall, and he's in his jogging shorts, but he's not jogging.
Yeah.
And I just came here, and I'm like, my innards kind of go. And then I says, hello. I says, we're not open right now. I said, you can come back when we're open. And he just went out, and it was like, it's like, there have been some scary instances, but although, you feel protected on the one hand, you have to
be smart. So that's right.
Because I had a musk-like. And then this paper's here, someone strewed them. I think it might have been that, there's almost a guy that's almost like a musk. And he'll come in, I'll ask for the 7 realities. And he'll come at odd hours. One time he came like 11:30, and so I just put it through the hole there,
He asks for the 7 realities every time?
Yeah. So he's heard about Baba in San Francisco, but one time, I let him in, it was daytime, and he asked for the 7 realities, and then I thought, well, I'll give him some food. I had an orange or something, and then he started saying something about he hadn't had a date in a long time, and I went, oh, really? He says, well, I says, I'm dedicated to God here. I says, And then he says, but, it was so nice. It'd be so nice to take a woman to the soda fountain. He was like living in the 50s, to the soda fountain. It's a wonderful life,
2 years ago, God and me, we went to San Francisco, we were in Berkeley. Yeah. And this Indian motel, always we go there. $25, good ride, room, TV, everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Berkeley, in Shuttle Avenue. And we went there, we slept in the morning, we came out, we wanted to pay the money, come out, the Indian lady. I saw some drunk man like that. So, and I said, I was afraid for him. I said, Jai Baba. No, I said, afraid, and my mouth came Jai Baba.
Yeah.
And then to say to the lady, the motel lady, Jai Baba too. We want to come out. Right. She didn't know Baba, but I said Jai Baba. But as soon as I saw him, I said Jai Baba. He said Jai Baba, like that. And I said, I'm going to come out. He said, which Baba? I said. He said, of course, Meher Baba. We hug each other in 8 o'clock in the morning, cry.
Abdul.
Everybody was watching me and drunk man, big drunk man. And he was embarrassing, me, I was big Baba said somebody. Immediately he brought Baba's picture for his pocket. give it to me. I run in the car, but Baba's picture, give it my wife, exchange it. Of course, Baba.
Wow, that's great story. Of course.
I kiss all his head, his body.
See, you'll do it if they're drunk, doesn't matter. It's your heart, you know.
I know.
Yeah.
He can't be drunk face, maybe.
But the chances of it
didn't matter.
Baba,
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Of course, Meher Baba.
Of course.
I was indicated which Baba.
And he knew.
You know, it's so funny that you would say that.
You know?
Yeah.
Of course, Meher Baba. He said.
That's so
He
great.
was in the morning drunk.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to tell you guys
He got
about
embarrassing.
about Rumi before I forget,
Yeah.
because that Rumi session is going to be June 17th. There's a man.
Yeah, coming, don't forget.
Yeah, Nader Khalili.
Khalili, yeah.
Yeah, and he's translated Rumi.
Which should be
He
really cool. I'd
bases
love
his
to go.
whole life on Rumi, and he's built this dome. You know, it's like this round structure, and we all go there. It's at the school, some school of architecture in Marina del Rey, and it was wonderful. You just pass Rumi. You just share Rumi.
Where is that place?
Which, you know, Rumi's my
Marina
favorite.
del Rey. I'll make a map.
Yeah.
But
That'd be great.
I was intoxicated. And I really felt that Baba was like courting him somehow.
Sure.
Because I felt joy there. And I felt everyone was kind of in awe of him, but I wasn't. You know, but I thought, of course he's intoxicated with Rumi. This is truth. So I was like buried in this book. And then I told him that my friend writes Rumi and you could dance. And, you know, she's written music. And he said, I says, we can dance. And he says, oh, good. But I thought it would be just so neat. Since I'm inviting everyone. It's 6:30 on Monday night, this June 17th, and I'll draw a map because I've been there.
Great.
June 17th,
Yeah.
Monday gonna be.
Oh, it was
6:30.
wonderful. And the dome looks out to the sky.
Wow.
It's not totally sealed over. And the acoustics are wonderful.
It's free.
Yeah, it's free.
I think they have a Sufi dance too. It's beautiful for you. It's called Sufi dance.
Yeah.
Sufi
Yeah.
dance.
Great.
So anyway, I'll make a map up.
I love Rumi.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're in the home stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one more page, yeah?
Yeah, finish.
The circle.
A circle is drawn on the ground by the penitent's own hand. For 40 days and nights he must not step out of the circle. He must forego food, water, and sleep. He must face whatever comes. There appeared to be no other solution or choice in Sheriar's mind. Although he had spent 18 years wandering in search of truth, he had been chaste, he had lived on alms, he had always been honest, and he had always been brave. But everything he had done seemed in vain, for he had not found union with God. To return to the world and live in conformity with society was abhorrent to him. He had reached the point where it either be realization of God or death. Sure of his decision, he drew the circle around himself on the ground, his heart imploring God to be united with him. Slowly time passed. He could not differentiate what day it was. Horrible screams were heard, then horrible noises roared louder and louder. Suddenly in front of him a lion roared, ready to devour him. He did not move. The lion disappeared. Later a ferocious tiger appeared, which stalked around the circle for hours. He did not move. The tiger disappeared. Suddenly flames rose out of the ground, on all sides of the circle. The flames moved closer to him. He was convinced he would be burned alive. Still he did not move. The flames died. Screaming giants appeared. They had painted faces with blood in their eyes and spears held menacingly. He did not move. They too disappeared. Many, many other dreadful visions came and vanished. All possessed the faces of horror. They all came to torture him. The visions became continual.
Wow.
Courageously, Sheriar held on and did not move from inside the circle for 30 days. Although only 10 more days were left for the completion of the chilla, it became too difficult for him to continue. A moment longer in the circle was more torture than he could endure. It was not possible for him to continue. He stepped out. He wept. All these years of penance and austerities had resulted in apparent defeat. Disheartened, bewildered, and half dead, Sheriar dragged himself away, collapsed near a river, and fell unconscious into a deep slumber. Alas, how pitiful! 18 years of asceticism had ended in bitter disappointment. Could not God have mercy on this pilgrim? Was this man to meet with such disappointment the rest of his life? What was to become of him? He wanted to die. He wouldn't let God, but why wouldn't God let him? Was there anything in his destiny besides his unfulfilled ideals? Yes, assuredly there was. The divine voice spoke and Sheriar listened.
Rosalie, is there something cooking? There's a smell of burning or something.
It must be from the chilla.
That's
He whom you seek.
Yeah, I smell it. Like
it smells
Electrical.
electrical.
it smells electrical.
Maybe it's the coffee thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you should pull it out.
Pull it out. Yeah, it's really going
Pull it
like
out.
wildfire.
See if the coffee maker
No,
is.
it smells worse in the office.
Oh, it's coming from the office.
Oh, okay.
Is there something on in there?
Is your
not
hot
that I
plate
can
on?
see.
Maybe.
Someone else come and smell. It's so
Fresh.
strong.
Ah.
He whom you seek, he whom you wish to see, his attainment is not destined for you. Your son, it is your son who will attain it. And through your son, you. Sheriar awakened with the words echoing, your son, through your son. He looked around, no one was there. Dazed, he heard its echo fading, your son, through your son. He was puzzled and questioned. Was this the voice of God? Was God commanding me? I have no son, no wife. How can I have a family? After a while he thought, but what is wrong in living a family life if it is God's command? His command means everything. So there is no question of right or wrong. With these thoughts, Sheriar again fell asleep and slept soundly for 3 days. When he awakened, he remembered the words he had heard, and, not knowing how to fulfill the divine injunction, began walking southward toward the river. His face showed indifference. Some power was guiding him to follow its course. He walked for more than 400 miles without feeling pain. Led safely to the city of Pune, he found the house of his sister Firoja. As he entered the threshold of her home, he was so emaciated and tired, he sought only to erase the exhaustion of many years of wandering. Tears of joy welled in Firoja's eyes as she opened the door and saw her brother. Both fell into each other's embrace, and with deep love and affection, she welcomed him into her home, where he stayed for some time. Sheriar's heart, however, was still crying out for something else. Austerities had not fulfilled his longing, yet he did not wish to give up the life of a dervish. How could he reveal this inner spiritual pain to his kindly sister?
Sai Baba.
Sai Baba.
Avatar
Mere Baba ki jai. Avatar Mere Baba ki jai. Avatar Mere Baba ki